Long before names were charted and coastlines drawn in wavering ink, there was simply water, deep and restless, indifferent to the boots of man. The ocean stretched endless, uncounted, unmastered. Mariners who dared its roads did not yet call themselves pirates. There were no brethren courts, no cursed gold, no song sung about ghost ships and storm-split deals. Only small wooden hulls bobbing between stars and fate, chasing spice and tale. This was the age before the codex and the compass ruled decision, when sails were cast by those who feared the gods but feared poverty more. The old ones say the wind knew names no man remembers. Great beasts long submerged watched from trench and rift, and darker things still, things never caught in net nor story, stirred below. Men feared not what they met at sea, but what they could not speak of upon return, what made even hardened tars go silent by the fire, staring into nothing, teeth packed tight behind pickled lips. There are logbooks from these years, but most are lost. Buried under reef stone. Burned at port auctions. Or swallowed by the ones who wrote them. And yet a few marks remained, half-maps edged in soot, pages sealed in wax, accounts recounted only by rumor. They speak of a time before the Royal Navy patrolled these waters. Before Port Royal found brick or coin. Before even Tortuga was more than rock and wild bird. A time of reckless captains chasing horizon lines that refused to stay where the stars said they ought. And among these parchment-frayed tales, one name rises early and often, Isla de Muerta. The island of the dead. Said to appear only to those who already sailed too far or already belonged to it. That isle was whispered long before it was ever seen. Sailors returning thin and raving spoke of a jagged black shape just beyond visibility, coiled in fog, prowled by unkillable things. Storms danced to its rhythm. Compasses spun when near it. And always, there was gold, always the promise of treasure measurable in no known weight. Aztec in make, the stories agreed. Taken under full moon by conquistadors long rotted. But that was still to come. At first, it was just stories. No one yet pursued such shores with purpose. No charts marked the route, for none had returned willing to draw it true. And no navy went near. Still, the tale spread, drifting from port stew to shipboard prayer. The hubris of men came, as it always comes, in the shape of greed. And where greed sails, betrayal is often stowed in the hold. They say there was once a single ship to chance Isla de Muerta and come away not empty. Not safe, not alive, perhaps, but changed, and not without spoils. This was long before any knew the vessel as legendary. She was then just a slick-hulled brigantine of darkwood and rumor, carved not by shipwrights but by hands who'd not worked dry land in years. Her name became feared long after, the Black Pearl, but her story, like all tales claimed by Brine, was not then yet hers alone. Of her crew, little can be said with certainty. Names lost, faces never drawn. No one who served her in those early years carried log or ledger. Only whispers claim the crew was unmatched, fastest to port, cruelest blade, fairest cut upon bargaining table or gallows plank. But it was the captain who would be remembered, if not rightly, then widely, Jack Sparrow. Not to be confused with a hero. Nor with a fool, though he played at both. Jack, who bore the trappings of a commodore's jacket beat brown by salt, and a hat weathered silver by sun. Jack, whose compass pointed not north, but elsewhere. The compass came to him in ways unclear. Not bought. Not stolen. Merely acquired, as so much finds its place in the pockets of those who need it. And he needed more than a heading. He needed that which pointed to what the heart seeks, a dangerous thing for any man to carry, but deadly to any sailor still seeking not harbor, but legacy. He did not yet command the pearl when first the compass found his hand. Nor did he own the ship when tale places him nearest La de Muerta. That would come with time, and with treachery. It was men like Barbossa, once trusted, once subordinate, who saw Jack's vision and misliked it. A captain who chased myth, who pointed to sea foam and said, there was not a captain long among those who favored certainty. Barbossa led the mutiny. Quick, bloody, efficient. They marooned Jack on an isle with nothing but the clothes draped thin on his bones and a pistol with one shot. Enough, they figured, for him to end it quiet. They took the pearl. They took the map, if there was one. And they took the gold. Here is where some say the curse began. Not from the moment the Aztec gold was stolen, years before, nor from the forged betrayal that passed between Cortez and the priests that guarded it. No, some say the true curse began when Barbossa opened that final chest, its coins glinting like hammered suns, and ignored the warnings etched in forgotten tongue. An offering to dead gods will not be spent. This, the taint men took into their bones. That each of the 882 pieces, if stolen, damned the soul of the taker. That those who claimed it would be left as shadows in flesh, unfeeling, unchanging, never full, never dying. Barbossa's crew did not listen. They paid in gold and in consequence. Years drawn long on the sea, haunted by moonlight that revealed their sin for all to see, skin turned grey as anchors, hair slick with seaweed, eyes absent of warmth, skeletons in coat and boot dancing eternally somewhere between breath and ash. To lift the curse, every coin must be returned, and the blood of those who took it repaid, drip for coin, cut for theft. Yet the bloodline dimmed. The debt lingered. Jack survived his marooning. As always, the details shift in the telling. Some say the rum runners found him. Others, that he bartered with Calypso herself beneath the island's tide. Some few even claim he waited, simply waited, for the sea to take him or send someone else it also refused. He did not die. And when he returned, always thin, always grinning, it was with purpose. He was not as he had been. The compass had not left him, nor had the hunger in his gaze. Port Royal, then still new, still smelling of paint and politics, became unexpectedly central to what followed. A coin survived there, worn and unknowingly weighted, around the neck of one born of pirate blood. Elizabeth Swan, daughter of privilege, raised above the waterline but not beyond its reach. She held the token, thinking it trinket, unaware of the curse it carried and the beacon it sent to those who still counted their eternity by howls under lunar tides. Barbossa came for her. Not for her, precisely, but for her blood, mistaken for the son of Bootstrap Bill Turner, whose true heir hid instead in plain sight within the forged smoke of the same town. Will Turner, apprentice blacksmith, unaware till then of his father's name, unaware of his own place in the tale now unfurling like a tide-heavy sail. Jack arrived coincidentally, though some suggest the compass knew. The Black Pearl came with cannon and ash. Elizabeth taken. Will enraged. Jack imprisoned, then freed. A bargain formed under palm trees and desperate grudge, recover the girl, betray the cursed, and perhaps reclaim a ship that still bore his name in salt. What followed was neither rescue nor revenge alone. It was unfolding. A tide swelling toward something ancient, irreparable, half predicted by charts no longer read. Ships moved. Names aligned: Norrington, Swan, Sparrow, Turner. Each chasing different debt. Lesser men became pawns in the games played around the last few coins of a cursed chest, tossed between sea caves and galleys like dice with flame for pips. The blood was paid through trick and sacrifice. The last coin fell with the right name tied to its drop. The curse broke not slowly nor with flourish, only with silence and the swift theft of breath from men who'd not breathed properly in many years. Barbossa fell first, shot by Sparrow's lone-held pistol, touched by mortality the moment he remembered the taste of it. Others yet lived, their coin repaid, their curse lifted but their consequence not erased. The pearl was Jack's again, for a moment. Always for only a moment. He held her wheel with the care of one who remembers long exiles. The compass lay quiet in his hand. Will held Elizabeth's gaze. And the navy closed in. It would never be over. For the sea does not forget. What is retrieved from her teeth is returned with interest. Coins may be returned. Lives may be spared. But legends, once stirred, carry forward ever onward, over horizon, under keel. There are truths best left muffled like bells in fog. The gold was never just gold. The chest, heavy with gleaming relics born from conquest, lay beneath moss-draped limbs and still air, deep in the folds of Isla de Muerta. Forged by the hands of Aztec priests long before European sails split the horizon of the New World, the treasure was not intended to be spent by mortals driven by greed. It was tribute, heavy, glowing tribute, paid with blood and fear, meant for gods unspoken. What deity it honored is unknown now. Perhaps it never was known in full, even by the ones who first laid the stack of coins into the stone box. It bore no name, only purpose. When Hernan Cortés landed with sword and crucifix, he took what he saw, claiming land, pressing religion, collecting riches like the toll of war. But in the choked jungle deep in the Yucatan, there lay gold meant not to see the sun again. His men carried it out with trembling hands, their ship moored at the edge of all things. Thunder followed them. The priests died cursing. And when the chest finally lay in the hold of a Spanish galleon, many whispered that the gods had not waited to strike. Storm hit. That much is known. Whether the entire fleet perished, or just the gold-bearing vessel, no record survives untouched. Yet somehow, the gold was never returned to the old empires nor passed into official ledgers. Instead, it surfaced when the sea was still young under the feet of hungry pirates. Stories describe the chest being found again, waterlogged and half-sunk, on an island few could reach and fewer could remember leaving. Isla de Muerta, awash with bones that weren't always old and caverns lit by candles that never burned down. Barbossa and his crew didn't simply stumble into that place. Some say it called to them. Others say Jack led them there, with symbols drawn in wax on his charts, and the compass always pointing silence true. Some few speak of a map once traced from the tattooed back of a man who died mid-sentence, loaded with coordinates not in any proper language. However they found the chest, they brought back what men were never meant to carry. The moment the first coin was plucked free and pocketed, whether in delight or desperation, the first life slipped from them quietly. The full 882 pieces vanished over time. Cut purses and harlots and harbour masters received their share unwittingly, each recipient folding curses into coin purses and masks of trade. But the hottest core remained between Barbossa's fingers and beneath the slats of the black pearl. His crew, each man complicit, slowly found themselves stripped of light. At first, it seemed a blessing to some. They feared no illness, no hunger, no aging crept into their joints. But then, food turned to ash in their mouths. Rum passed their lips without warmth. No woman could stir their flesh, no gold could soothe their pride. Touch grew distant. Memory dulled. And under the moon, they lost shape. Flesh drew back from their skeletons like sails in wind, revealing sinew-stitched death that could walk and think and remember too clearly. At sea, immortality loses its shine. The water has little to offer a man who cannot die. The crew scattered the coins further, out of desperation or defiance, seeking somehow to undo what they had done. But there was no remedy in scattering. The curse followed each piece. Redemption, as whispered through salt-mouth prayers, required return not just of gold, but of debt. The blood of every thief must soak the coin they claimed. It could not be imagined or simulated. The curse knew truth. It tasted lineage. Thus began their long chase. Not after gold alone, but after genealogies. Men watched each other change under torchlight, bones showing through sleeves and doubt bleeding through bravado. They searched for missing pieces, yes, but they also hunted bloodlines. One stood out, Bill Turner, known better by his sea name, Bootstrap. He had taken his portion and then condemned the rest. He did not approve of throwing Jack to exile. Barbossa, seeking obedience, chained him in irons and cast him to the deep, not understanding that a man under curse could not die, but could still drown endlessly. It was Turner's blood they needed. His coin had gone, like all the rest, and Barbossa's crew believed his death lost the final key. It was Elizabeth they took, mistaking her surname, her pendant, her courage. When Jack rejoined the hunt, it was not to end the curse. His heart, ever drawn by wheels and winds, had only one true aim, the pearl. Yet the dance danced still, Jack, Will, Elizabeth, Barbossa, each gripped by part of the story's throat. When the cursed gathered in their hidden cave lair to return the final coins, they brought Elizabeth's blood with them, thinking it bootstraps. Yet the curse would not lift. Pain returned with clarity, not from the wound, but from hope denied. It had to be real blood. Correct blood. Will, true son of Turner, surfaced not long after, unwilling, untested, but perfectly suited. That night, with naval iron readying above, blades clashed by firelight in rock-ring pools. Will's blood met the gold not willingly, but necessarily. Jack, himself bitten moments before by Barbossa's blade, used the curse against its authors. Just long enough to fire one mortal shot, one he had kept for years, loaded and lacquered against moisture, meant for the man who took it all. As the curse broke, Barbossa staggered, color returning to his face just in time to watch it drain. He collapsed beneath the stone mouth of the altar, eyes open toward candles now real again. Those who survived breathed for the first time in years. Then came the sea. Always. Jack fled again. Some say escaped. Some say aloud. Held fast by wing and whim, he returned to his pearl. But the world had grown thicker around him. He had changed no fewer lives than he had stolen chances. Will and Elizabeth stood on the docks no longer as innocent hands. They didn't speak of the Aztec gold again, nor of the immortal crew, and the Navy buried its report with locked signatures. Yet the gold, it never remains buried for long. Pirates talk. Sailors remember even when they don't speak. Ships dock in Tortuga with strange coinage and thinner skin. There are whispers, still, of scattered remains, of coins not returned, buyers not warned. Some even say a few of Barbossa's crew, those cleverer or more cautious, left early enough to keep both life and gold, though cursed hollowed them in corners. What became of Isla de Muerta after the curse lifted is unclear. Some say the sea swallowed it. Others claim it rises again for those already doomed. Its map never worked the same way twice. Jack once returned, some believe, though never with crew and never with a plan. Even to him, by then, it was a memory slicked in sea mist, a wound disremembered the moment it dried. Coins forge legends, but the weight of cursed gold never truly lightens. The chest was closed, and the Aztec voices stilled inside. But just as the pieces scattered once before, so too could they shift again. The sea loses nothing, only changes where it hides things. And ships, like men, rarely sail the same course twice once they've stared into that kind of darkness. The pearl vanished with Jack behind storm and smoke. Will return to his forge with a name heavier than the anvils. Elizabeth watched the shoreline, knowing it never truly ends in rescue. But one small object, tucked within a coat pocket not remembered, began quietly trembling again. A compass. Meant to guide not by magnetic pull, but by wanting, simple, quiet wanting. And far below where the air ends, something began to listen. In the years that followed the lifting of the Aztec curse, the Black Pearl sailed again, but not as she once had. Though her lines still cut water like knives through canvas and her sails still sprang forth in sudden fury from misted ports, something in her hull remembered. Wood does not forget, nor the bones of ships creaking in night passage. The Pearl creaked louder than most. She was a ship made from the pieces of other ships, timbers salvaged from wrecks thought unrecoverable, ribs from vessels run aground in forgotten straits, with nails pulled from planks soaked in old storms. Jack Sparrow called her the fastest to ever sail. Perhaps she truly was, but speed alone does not make a ship legend. Not in these waters. There are no birth records for the Pearl, only the tale told slowly in shanty corners by men who sailed with her briefly and survived only to say so. Before she bore the black sails, she had no true name, passed between captains like coin at the end of command. At some point, Jack Sparrow took her under the old code, and it is telling that few dispute this detail. Even those who hate him, those who speak his name with curl and judgment, still call the Pearl his ship. She was freedom to him, shaped not by compass bearings but by where others warned not to go. He captained her for only a short time in the days before the mutiny, that quiet, bloodless coup where words passed between Barbossa and the others like knives left on a table for someone else to pick up. Jack had led his crew in search of the treasure of Cortez, convinced his compass would guide not simply direction, but fate. Barbossa, wearied by starvation, driven more by gold than myth, accused Jack of hoarding secrets, or more damning still, of lacking the will to claim them. No fight was required. They left Jack with one shot on a spit of land, one bottle, and no forgiveness. The Pearl became something else in their hands. Under Barbossa, her legend twisted. No longer the spearpoint of Sparrow's mad pursuit, she became the reaping shadow of ports grown too rich. Always black sails, always bearing down in sudden fog. She was death to merchantmen and silence to those who claimed her wake. Tales filtered outward, of her crew moving silent and pale aboard the deck, of cannonballs passing through her without effect. Even before the truth of their curse was known, whispers surrounded the Pearl. Some thought her already dead. Others swore she had never been built but had simply risen from some old wreck and found new crew. Those under the curse would not need air, nor rest, nor kindness. The perfect pirates, if one measures perfection by absence of mercy. When Jack returned to her, after the curse lifted, after Barbossa's death and yet not his death, he found her changed. Not broken, not beaten, but quiet. It is said she responded to his hand, to his step on the deck. He spoke to her, not for show, but out of need. And if she answered him, it was only in sway and groan. They say she sailed better under him than under any captain before or since, but not without memory. The pearl bore scars invisible to chart and carpenter, fissures inside her that reached toward something colder than time. More than once, Jack lost her again. Sometimes through mutiny, other times through trickery or poor decision, each tied in some way to the tides of rumor that trailed him. But like storm and star, the pearl always found her way back, as if she, too, sought something her hull had once glimpsed in the light of cursed gold. She had no figurehead. Or rather, she had many over the years, each replaced, torn down, or fallen away in battle. Some say that Jack avoided a fixed symbol purposefully, that no woman carved from pine or cedar should front a ship already haunted by too many memories. Others claim the pearl chose not to keep one, shaking it loose in storms or fire. A ship as storied as she bore little need for symbols. Her name alone, spoken in hushed quarters, carried more weight than any sculptor's craft. When she vanished, for whole years at a time, sailors continued to claim sightings. Always on the horizon. Always gliding without wind. Always pursuing, never overtaking, seen only in retreat or momentary turn. Some reported her tattered, half-burned, yet floating steady with no sway in rough waters. Others insisted she was pristine and new-rigged, slicing through headwind with no explanation. It became common to say of the pearl what had been long said of other ghost ships, that she only sailed when she chose, under captains she selected, and for ends no man knew. There was one whose hands matched Jack's in stubbornness, if not in story. Barbossa, who once betrayed Jack, did not stay dead. His resurrection was whispered long before it was confirmed. Some say Calypso brought him back for her own reasons. Others speak of debts deeper than grave soil, a trade made in quiet with those not fully of sea nor land. When he returned, however, he did not seek the pearl first. He built other fortunes, bided time, chased ships that carried flesh rather than ghost. But he never stopped wanting her. Not for Jack, not for himself, but because, in truth, the pearl did not belong to anyone. Owning her, even briefly, made captains feel invulnerable. Losing her made them remember what fear was. Blackbeard, Edward Teach, came into her tale then. Not by inheritance, not by theft, but by sheer force of presence. A darker name even than Barbossa or Sparrow, his ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, left fire in its wake and claimed souls openly. Blackbeard did not spread fear softly. Where the pearl was myth, the Revenge was demonstration. Blackbeard's sorcery, or the legend of it, was crudely effective. Tales said he bound ships in bottles and shrank their masts to matchsticks, that he controlled wind with chants and candles, and kept a sword that summoned judgment from the sea floor. It was he who took the pearl, not in battle, but in ritual. Her sails were torn, her crew scattered, and her magic smothered in glass. When next she was seen, it was only in miniature, locked behind crystal walls in the chambers of a captain who believed the only command worth uttering was that over time itself. Freed only later by luck, betrayal, and fire, the pearl emerged from her prison not quite the same. Smaller, some claim. Restored, yet resistant. As if she had remembered too much in that bottle. Ships dream, in their way. And the pearl's dreams had turned cold. By then, Jack's hands had shaken. The compass no longer obeyed as it once did. His grip on myth had begun to loosen. Without the pearl underfoot, he stumbled more often into dependency than destiny, looking always for a heading, but finding only those who sought to use the ship for their own ends. Others laid claim to her legacy, new captains, false histories. But the Pearl did not betray Jack completely. Among all her captains, she came back to him most often. She let him tumble across her deck with rum on his breath and irony in his speech, yet raised canvas when he asked. Not promptly, but eventually. Like a dog that tolerates the foolishness of one who once fed her. Still she sailed places no other ship could go. Through seas that churn without horizon. Through waters thick with the bones of those who sought too much. She escaped maelstrom and imprisonment. She heard the songs of sirens and outpaced dead men who needed no wind. Other ships burned. Other names faded. But the Pearl survived. Not whole. Never whole. But afloat. Some say she carries part of Jack's soul. Others argue she is Jack's soul, and the man just the shadow she leaves behind in each port. Either way, when she sailed again under black sails and starlight, the quiet changed in the water. Every sailor heard the shift, even the ones who'd never seen her. The gulls circled differently. The ropes creaked in new rhythm. The sea knew her name, the Pearl, and whispered it again, as if reminding itself that stories do not end at the final page, but rather tilt sideways into memory. Because the Pearl, like all legends, is part truth, part echo. And echoes do not fade at once. They linger, circling just out of sight, waiting for a voice, or a captain, to call them home. The forge in Port Royal rang with steel before it rang with destiny. It was there, in the still hours when the town baked quiet beneath Caribbean sun, that young Will Turner bent his arm to iron and skill, shaping blades never meant to be drawn in his own defense. He had no flag and no name worth writing, only a heritage he believed better forgotten and a craft that brought him just close enough to nobility to remain near it, yet always apart. His hands reeked of fire and hammered guilt he could not name until the wind shifted and the Pearl arrived. Will knew nothing of pirates. Nothing true. What he did know had been learned second-hand, in glances at gallows, in whispered derision from the British officers who brought rumors with their uniforms. His past was sealed in a medallion placed around his neck as a child, pulled nearly lifeless from the sea, carried from fire and storm by those who had no idea what it meant, only that he lived and the water had not taken him. He wore the coin beneath his shirt like a charm, like a whispered name never spoken aloud. Elizabeth Swan, daughter of Governor Swan, did not forget that coin. Nor the boy. And though she was drawn higher in society, raised by port authority and empire's image, she remembered that orphan in rags and soaked shoes. It was memory that kept her from discarding the past, even as she wore silks gilded by colonizers. Yet Port Royal carried slumber beneath its formality. It was a town built for civility but surrounded on all sides by the sea's ungovernable wild. So when the Black Pearl came over its waters, it was not Earth's law that answered, but sea's memory. The cursed crew raided not for spice or for spoils, but for a bloodline. They found Elizabeth with the medallion, the last known Aztec coin, worn thin by neck and tide. Believing her to be the daughter of Bootstrap Bill, they took her under cannon fire and twilight, vanishing before morning brought news of the broken harbor. Elizabeth went willingly, in part. She parleyed as best she could, invoking the laws she thought even pirates must recognize. In response, Barbossa fed her wine and riddles and fruit that turned to ash, testing her identity and readiness alike, curious if she would weep when faced with the moaning wreckage of his crew through moonlight. She did not. She stood firm. But her blood, however strong, failed to lift the curse. The pirates had blundered. They held not Bootstrap's descendant as they believed, but the descendant's unlikely acquaintance. And further east, fire in his heart and Smith's edge in his hand, Will Turner prepared to explain who he truly was, whether or not he believed it himself. Will did not wait for orders. He ignored gates and governors and titles. He sought Jack Sparrow, then held in the prison, accused, forever accused of some theft not fully written into the records. Will knew only that Jack had sailed on the Pearl. And if the Pearl had taken Elizabeth, then Jack might sail her again. Their bargain, born not of trust but of necessity, bound forge and rumor into makeshift compass. Jack wanted his ship. Will wanted Elizabeth. Both were pulled by debts older than charcoal and older still than canvas. They commandeered a vessel. Not with ease, nor with grace, but they did. Jack, as ever, leaned on misdirection and muddled charm. Will leaned on fury. They set out toward Tortuga, the pirate haven where names are as fluid as ale counts and where Jack's old crew could be sought, if not trusted. There, among old acquaintances and new allies, the winds caught something deliberate. The chase began properly. Two men unalike in birth, joined in desire, one for a woman, the other for a ship. Or perhaps, both were after freedom, though each chased it under separate disguise. Elizabeth, though captive, was never passive. She watched every knot tied aboard the Pearl, learned its movements, waited while Barbossa circled her with jest and hunger unfulfillable. She did not learn of the curse through tale, she saw it under moonlight, when the flesh peeled back and revealed what hunger had made of the men around her. What immortality did without purpose. She saw the agony behind their eyes, lived in a world where food and fire touched no soul. She knew then, fully, why they needed her blood. Though, as the era emerged, she also learned her life could no longer ransom her. They would need Will. And she could only hope he would understand his name in time. On the water, battles do not play out in single moments. The sea extends conflict, draws suspense through doldrums and misreading winds. Jack played his cards close as always, conniving roots while concealing truth. Will, bound only by love and nascent anger, trusted too readily. They caught the Pearl, eventually. They reached Isla de Muerta, a ship drawn to it again, always drawn, perhaps by compass or fate, none could say surely. They arrived in time to confront the ritual meant to drain Elizabeth's blood against her will. Initial blows were struck in shadow, sword to bone, iron to curse. But Barbossa understood his odds better than most. The moment he glimpsed Will Turner, true blood of Bootstrap, he knew correction had arrived. Bargains again rose. Lives weighed against others. Jack danced between them, bartering as always, not with gold, but with uncertain loyalty. He offered Will. Or seemed to. He offered Elizabeth, too. Or seemed to. In truth, he offered misdirection. For Jack himself had taken a cursed coin, palmed it in silence, and joined the undead dance. He fought with a blade that could not kill and traded moves with men immune to pain. When he fired his pistol, that single shot he had kept since the mutiny, it passed through Barbossa, but the death did not strike. Not until Will returned the final coin, now soaked with his blood, teeth clenched in indignation, destiny, or both. With the curse broken, Barbossa found himself human once more. And thus, mortal. He stumbled. Perhaps he cursed. Certainly he bled. He collapsed beneath the golden light of vanity, eyes open as though trying to see what the rest of his days now robbed him of. Jack offered no apology. Only a look. And in the quiet to follow, the pearl breathed again. Yet peace does not follow restitution. The curse was lifted, but the Navy had closed its fist. Jack, ever the outlaw, stood condemned once more. Will helped him escape. Not the act of a blacksmith anymore, but of someone born with different tides in his heart. Elizabeth watched from the gallows scaffold as smoke curled like rope, and her silence spoke louder than vows ever could. Will's place no longer fit. The forger waited, but felt too small. Jack sailed away, but left them changed. Elizabeth forswore station for sea-drenched love. William Turner, once orphan, once apprentice, became something different. Not quite pirate. Not quite noble. A man in between names, guided, perhaps, by the same compass that led Jack nowhere when asked for direction, and yet always found where longing pointed. The pearl was gone from his life, for now. The coin lay to rest. Yet deep beneath the waves, where Bootstrap Bill had once drifted in chains, something old still echoed. The debt was paid, true enough. But curses, like the sea, rarely vanish. They recede. And in the silence after such storms, something older still stirred, a locker closed tightly, haunted not by gold, but by promises made in exchange for time borrowed, and hearts hidden where flesh could not follow. Even after the coins were scattered no longer, even after the blood debt dripped and dried in the pools of Isla de Muerta, the quiet that followed was uneasy. Port Royal resumed its painted order, as the sun rose again over cannon-kept walls and merchant ships resumed pretending they were safe. But the sea does not keep still waters long, and what had been disturbed by the curse of Cortez did not vanish when the chest was sealed. There are forces that notice when the dead walk too long, when men forget how to die. The Black Pearl sailed freely again, her cursed sails filled now only with wind rather than the moans of an ageless crew. Her cannons thundered no less, her hull groaned no quieter. To the world outside the story, she was simply back, a black shape against blue horizon, a name returned to whispered warnings in harbors and storm-bitten corners of deckside ports. But something had changed just beneath her timbers. Perhaps the sea resented her. Perhaps the laws of death, long bent to accommodate the greed of mortal men, whispered for vengeance. It is in such still moments, between the end of one tale and the beginning of the next, when omens rise. At first, they were small. A sudden squall without cause, one ship becalmed while its neighbors moved. A compass that spun in unmarked patterns. Sailors far from home dreaming too frequently of waves without bottom or current. In Tortuga, coin ran oddly cold in the hand. And from the east, men spoke of storms that circled in place, a whirlwind called forth by anger, not weather. Jack Sparrow sailed with the pearl but not quite in possession of her. He had her wheel, yes, and her speed beneath him, yet already forces moved to unsettle that frail grip. The Navy pursued, dogged now by personal vendetta rather than royal charter. Former Commodore Norrington, stripped of title, followed Jack not for law but for something heavier, something bruised and proud. And Beckett of the East India Trading Company loomed where empires cast wider nets, not a man of sea or superstition, but a man who understood that stories, too, could be bought, bargained, and buried. Jack's compass, that odd artifact rarely understood and never mocked for long, had grown colder in his hand. It still turned. Still pointed. But where it once drew a line toward promise and escape, it now veered too often toward shadow. He did not always speak of what he followed. Not to Gibbs. Not to himself. But the truth was whispered easily enough across ports. Jack was seeking something beyond gold. Seeking freedom, yes, but not the kind that comes from escape. The kind that must be bought, if not in coin, then in kind. And so came whispers of Davy Jones. Old tales, older even than Isla de Muerta, tell of a captain who commands the deep itself. Not a man, nor a ghost, nor a god, but something between all three. The Flying Dutchman, his vessel, was said to cross water and air alike, sometimes surfacing beside ships with no wind to speak of. A crew all barnacle and scale and salt-choked silence. Bound to serve. Bound to rot. Punished not for crime, but delay. Those who died at sea and were afraid of the afterlife, they said, could pledge themselves to Jones. 100 years of servitude in exchange for delay of judgment, a stay of damnation. But tricks come with delay. Time stretches poorly in the deep. Those who pledged often forgot their names long before their sentences reached a close. And Jones himself? He had once been kept in time by a heart, the very one he removed and sealed away to spite the pain it knew. So the stories went. And Jack, hearing them, did not laugh. Nor did he tell his crew why the sea itself seemed to rise against him on calm days. The truth came slowly, only after debts long ignored began to speak in clearer voices. Jack Sparrow had made a bargain. Years back. Before the pearl was his. Perhaps even before the curse. He wanted a ship, and Jones answered. In storms and chords of damp organ pulled from some prison of waves, the Dutchman gave Jack the pearl, for 13 years of freedom, followed by a century of service. Jack, always seeking a way around consequence, had forgotten, or pushed from mind, how few years remained. The 13th now neared its toll. And so the Kraken stirred. Jones did not appear at once. His servants came first, men warped by years unspent, faces taken by coral and crust, hands shaped more by water than by limb. They boarded ships in storm and silence, leaving none alive who might warn. But the lucky one saw the horizon shift wrong, saw the Dutchman breach into sky, saw her sails drip with weeping seaweed. When Jack finally saw her, it was not a meeting of old acquaintances. It was a warning. Tentacles slapping wood, voices spoken through split barnacle lips. The deadline now passed. His service was due. And Jones, who honored no appeals, now hunted in earnest. The compass spun. Jack ran. The pearl, though fast, could not outrun tide itself. The Kraken was summoned, a beast none describe without stammering, for none see it and keep their bearing. Jack's only thought now was avoidance. He needed time again. A new bargain. A loophole. He turned toward the dead man's chest. It was said Jones's heart, the very heart that had once beat in time with love and vengeance, was locked away, buried on an island charted only by betrayal and grief. Whoever controlled the chest controlled the sea itself, for Jones would be no more than a puppet if his heart beat in another's keeping. Jack sought the key. He sought others to hold the danger with him, so the risk might be split, a habit he had formed early in life, and never broken. Will joined again, drawn first by purpose, later by a far more dangerous thread. For his father, Bootstrap Bill Turner, had returned to his life, not as man, but as crew, in service to Jones. A debt inherited or repaid, none could say. Bound to the barnacled fate Jack feared. Will bargained not for gold, not for power, but to save his father. He thought to take the heart and use it as leverage to end Jones's contract. But Jones was older than hope. He knew these games. Elizabeth, too, now found herself among pirates, though not as captive, and not always as companion. Trust frayed between each party, and Jack alone seemed content to let confusion rule, always smiling, always hoping chaos might soften truth. Yet when the chest was found, and the key fought over on decks and sand, choices revealed the heart in every man. Jack, when faced with Jones's vengeance in full, hesitated. He would flee, as always. But the sea gave no further chances. The Kraken rose again, not in hunt, but in payment. The Pearl was taken, pulled slowly into whirlpools of black water, her mast groaning even as sailors scrambled up rigging that led only downward. The crew escaped by luck and betrayal, a single boat filled by survivors, despairing and torn. Jack remained. He turned at the end. Returned, sword in hand, to face them all. Some say bravery took him. Others say guilt. Most agree only this: he was last seen at the wheel, steady as death took the ship beneath. The Pearl was gone. Jack was gone with her. Elizabeth spoke little afterward. Will spoke less. In silence, they buried what they could not name. With no body and no captain, they burned neither sail nor plank. No rights. Only whispers. And the sea, once again, kept what it wanted. Yet the world spun onward, and those who escaped knew the story could not end there. For Jones still lived. His heart was still unclaimed. Beckett now reached deeper than the Navy's coat would allow. And rumors from the wind spoke of the locker, a place not of maps, not of stars, where drowned souls wander shoreline without memory. If Jack had gone there, as the old tales believed, then perhaps, just perhaps, he might be found. And so the brethren sought one another again. Old lords whispered. New bargain stirred. And in the east, Calypso waited, bound in human form, her name forgotten but her wrath unbeaten. What had begun with cursed gold now turned again, toward debts not in blood, but in time, and into waters no compass dares point. Of all the objects Jack Sparrow ever bartered, carried, or stole, it was the compass that stayed closest to his skin. Not because it was vital, not in the way blades or pistols or the Pearl's own wheel were vital, but because it whispered. It whispered without words, turning gently in his palm when answers from the world failed. A worn brass lid. An arrow that spun not to north, but toward whatever the bearer most desired. No magic declared aloud. No sorcery wrapped in light or prophecy. Only a device that moved as the human heart does, crooked, unsure, full of contradiction. And this, more than all his schemes, was perhaps Jack's oldest reliance. No one could say where the compass came from, not even Jack, or perhaps especially not Jack. Some claim he won it from a dying sailor aboard a sinking Dutch brig, the man's final breath guiding the arrow desperately toward shore. Others say it was gifted by a witch from the island of Pelagosto, in exchange for stories Jack himself could not even recall telling. The more cautious suggest it did not come to him at all, but that it was always his, waiting in a chest he himself had locked and forgotten. The compass never pointed north. This was the one truth all men agreed upon when they saw it. Not magnetic, not logical, not consistent. Will Turner once held it and watched the needle spin until it locked eastward, straight toward Elizabeth, though he hadn't known it yet. Elizabeth herself later turned the lid only to find the arrow pointed at Jack, then Will, then back again, unsure or reflective, mirroring the tangled web inside her that even she could not untangle. But Jack knew what the compass wanted because the compass knew Jack. Or more accurately, the compass wanted what Jack most wanted, though Jack himself was never fully certain what that was. Freedom, yes. but also the pearl, not because it was his ship, but because it was the embodiment of freedom itself. For any other man, the arrow might spin endlessly. For Jack, it sometimes stood still, though never true north, and never for long. Men feared it, in their way. Gibbs would not touch it. Barbossa mocked it, until it led him to treasure more than once. When Beckett captured it, he called it a trinket, yet guarded it with iron-laced boxes and oaths. For the compass played the same game all the sea plays, offering direction with no promise that destination will bring comfort. It came to matter more than it ever had when Jack, freed from the confines of death and shipless once more, found himself hunted by more than Davy Jones. Dead men now pursued him again, not cursed by coin or locker, but by betrayal. The compass, which once quietly turned toward what a man's soul yearned for, now became a key. For all its mystery, it had always been binding. It did not simply show desire. It held it, anchored it. Jack, through years of clutching its half-polished case and asking it to guide him from one betrayal to the next, had laid too much of himself into its needle spin. The stories say that when one betrays the compass, that is, gives it away, the price is not gold or death, but release. A terrible kind of release. Not from bondage or sin, but from secrecy. When the compass passes from owner under duress, it does not forget. Instead, it releases into the world what the owner feared most, the heart of their fear, given flesh, or fangs, or sail. And Jack eventually gave it away. It was not by plan. It was not to some deserving soul. It passed hands in desperation, in a trade made to preserve his own life, as with so many of Jack's decisions. They say he needed a drink more than a heading. They say it lay briefly in Tia Dalma's sanctuary of dark roots and drifting dust. And when he gave it up, the sea changed. Salazar rose. Captain Armando Salazar had once been a man of Spain's old empire, back when the Caribbean was still being cut into lines and prayer by European ambition. He was neither pirate nor merchant. He was a hunter. His ships, dark-ribbed and suffocating with order, once patrolled the Caribbean not for fortune, but for slaughter. He sought pirates the way wolves seek the scent of blood across freshly fallen snow. The sea, in his time, feared his name more than any other, for he turned the ocean itself into a clean line of empire. It was Jack who led him to the Devil's Triangle. A young Jack, a boy by most standards, standing aboard a burning vessel, fleeing a war he never joined. When his captain fell, Jack took the wheel. And when he saw no escape, he trimmed sail and maneuvered the ship through twisting rocks and rising mist. Salazar, in full pursuit, laughed as he followed. But the triangle, older than any Spanish map and jagged like the teeth of a god, swallowed Salazar whole. His ship, the Silent Mary, was shattered. His body, and that of his crew, was uninvited from both life and death. For years they rotted upright, beneath cursed gloom, unable to leave, unable to pass. Until the compass let go. When Jack discarded it, something ancient and precise in the sea stirred, and Salazar was loosed. No longer a man, if he ever truly had been, Salazar moved like a shadow torn from the wind. His ship sailed without hull, bones exposed, flag with no thread. His crew passed through walls and sails alike, bloodless, ruthless, and driven only by remembering. A ghost without rest, frothing with the long hate of a man denied revenge at the moment of his victory. He hunted pirates. All pirates. But most of all, Jack. And the compass, silent now, had been the key. Jack, realizing what he had done, tried again to seize control. To find salvation in reflex. But the game had changed. The sea was no longer just wild. It was angry. It was not the only price he had forgotten. In the shadows of taverns and atop the crow's nests of crippled ships, others now reached for the compass. Beckett, long dead. Barbossa, strangely returned. Elizabeth, far inland. Will, lost beyond tide and flesh. And in each of their thoughts, the same belief echoed: this tool, this compass, might chart not stars but salvation. They were both right and wrong. At times, the compass would act as if it remembered those who had held it. When passed from Jack to Gibbs, it once stuttered. It would stop, spin, pause, then continue, not always toward the same thing, nor the same risk. Some sailors dreamed that it never pointed anywhere, that it only spun in place at the end of the world, waiting for someone to finally ask the right question. Others say it has no needle at all, just a reflection of one's own face wavering in the polished brass. Jack never stopped carrying it, after reclaiming it again. Kept near his chest, opposite where Jones once kept his heart in a box. Jack's compass never beat, but it turned. And each time it did, he remembered that he had no fortress where he stored want. Only a mirror on a spring, shaking with the echo of his own uncertain lust for freedom, vengeance, forgiveness, or home. What the compass did not reveal was choice. That responsibility remained Jack's, or Will's, or whoever dared to snap the lid open with the question in mind. It did not care if the desire led to agony. Only that the desire was true. Later, when others held it, the compass showed them things they did not speak aloud. For many, the needle did not move at all. The heart behind the hand, silent. Without hunger, the compass was mute, brass and glass, nothing more. But Jack, for all his contradictions, always hungered for something. And it is hunger that the sea answers loudest. So the compass turned, like tide. Spinning not toward north, but toward damnation, hope, or home, depending on the bearer's truth. And somewhere east of the last navigable chart, where eye gives way to fog and fog to dream, something stirred again. For power wrestled in the deep once more, and compasses, however strange, cannot help but turn. It began with stillness. The kind unnatural to any water that breathes. No lapping of waves, no creak of the hull beneath, no gulls overhead. Sailors tell of it, of that unnatural hush that descends just before something stirs from below. The wind leaves your voice, and the air becomes that of a room half forgotten rather than an ocean simply deep. Jack Sparrow knew it well, though he rarely spoke of it in sober company. It was the prelude to collection. The sea wanted him again. 13 years, the bound shoresmen claimed. 13 years of freedom purchased by a single whispered promise, signed beneath starless skies, with terms never fully spoken aloud. Jack, young then, desperate, cocky, grinning as only those who still believe in their escape can grin, he agreed to Davy Jones's bargain. In exchange for the black pearl, resurrected from whatever reef claimed ruin Jack had last left it behind, he would serve. The cost, naturally, would be deferred. In every story tied to water, debt never arrives on the due day. It comes instead when all other routes are closed. And so it came. Davy Jones had tired of waiting. Commanding the Dutchman not from helm but from organ, Jones watched not waves, but the subtle disturbances in the current of fate. Where ships vanished, he listened. Where voices broke mid-oath, he stirred. And when Jack's time had come, the bolt was drawn not with cannon fire, but with a name. He sent the Kraken. No logbook bears its full description. No man alive claims to have seen it clearly and gone on to write of the sight with both hands. But its signs are unmistakable. A roll in the horizon where no wave lies. Sailcloth torn not by wind, but by suction. Wood wrenched inward, not broken from without. And the stench, indescribable, men say, a stench of the trench itself stirred into breathing for brief moments. It did not come to kill indiscriminately. It was summoned, directed. Jack's name was etched beneath its purpose as neatly as if painted on the Pearl's hull. Jones did not need to chase. He sent vengeance instead, a beast neither loyal nor wild, simply bound, as he was, as every cursed soul was, by contracts buried beneath brine and bargain. Jack fled. Not once, not twice, but many times. Across islands unnamed and coves where maps lied, he ran. He evaded with typical flair, dodging accusation and claw-like, but only barely, and never boldly. His face was pale even beneath the usual varnish of rum and bravado. A man who knows the sea wants him is never truly at peace aboard any vessel. He sought an end not to the Kraken, for that was impossible, but to the control of it. Jones's heart held the answer. That frail, mortal thing, still beating softly in a box of simple wood, guarded not by fleets but superstition, hidden beneath questions none would ask aloud. To harm the man was to seek his heart. To find the heart was to hold the leash not only to the Dutchman, but to all that moved beneath it, including the Kraken itself. And yet Jones was no fool. He had not placed his heart in plain reach. It was whispered to lie within a chest inscribed with runes no tongue had spoken for centuries, buried on land no current favored, protected not by locks alone but by secrecy bought at great cost. Jack searched, not alone, never alone. He drew Will Turner into it again, fanning the embers of debt and allegiance. And Tia Dalma, the witch of the bayou, appeared on more than one occasion not as ally nor foe, but interruption. Speaking in riddles, she did what the sea does, offered help for prices unstated and gave warnings long after they could be heeded. Yet even as they searched, Jones intensified his pressure. The Kraken struck others, ships tied to Jack even loosely. Merchantmen who once carried him. Harbors that opened one night to crew him for passage. Even those who sailed beneath false Jolly Rogers, claiming his name like a curse ward. Mast by mast, deck by deck, the creature dragged them under, two great arms curling like the sea itself, dragging hope past air. Each time left fewer willing to aid him. Even Jack's own crew began to question whether the Pearl's speed was worth the price. The ship creaked louder. The sails snapped at ghosts. And beneath her, every man felt the sudden tension of ropes tugged without wind. Still the search continued. When they reached the island where the chest lay, far off, beyond bearings, where the beach bleached white from sun no map admitted, they found not gates, but curses. The land was alive not in greenery, but in avoidance. All who disembarked felt watched. The chest itself was revealed not through effort, but by error, the soil giving way beneath Jack's idle step as if it had noticed its true master. Inside, the heart beat gently. Wet. Real. Will sort it for his father. Jack, for peace. Norrington, disgraced and burned by loss, now clawed his way back into honor and saw the chest as favor to grant the very men who had discarded him. Elizabeth watched it all and tried to remember who she had become since first holding the Aztec coin. The battle was swift, violent, absurd. The heart was stolen, passed, hidden, recovered. And in the end, none of them held it. Beckett did. Through backroom dealings, cavalry brigades whose names were no longer publicly spoken, and agents who worked just this side of the Crown's understanding. The East India Trading Company claimed the box, not by sword, but with order. Jones, seeing it taken, became something else. Not angry, but obedient. Not hateful, but unleashed. The Kraken grew less selective. They killed it. It is not known how. Only that when next Jack saw the beast, it was laid bare on the rocks, throat exposed, giant maw collapsed, tentacles folded like tired sails. The wind around it did not mourn. It simply shifted. Jones had been ordered to kill the creature. Beckett feared what could not be bound by language. He wanted a ghost fleet, yes, and control of souls, yes, but not beasts older than theology. By commanding the death, he controlled Jones completely. Heart in hand. Legend snuffed. Jack stood briefly before the now-dead maw. He did not speak. Perhaps he remembered being inside it, half swallowed by its fury. Perhaps he remembered being spared. Sailors say he touched the skin once, gently, the way one might touch driftwood found at sea, a remnant of something lost before language. But the debt did not die with the beast. Beckett had plans. With Jones now forced into servitude, conquered not by blade but by bureaucracy, the company wielded the Dutchman as if it were a registered vessel. They conscripted souls. Pressed men into service not within system, but beneath waves. Pirates now faced not only gallows, but eternal press ganging into a ship that knew neither storm nor rest. The seal had been broken. What began with an agreement between sailor and sea sprite had now shifted fully into empire. Jack was not freed. Will remained bound. Elizabeth had become captain of choices she loathed and accepted. And Barbossa, dead, once more, returned again, breathing, watching from shadows. All this in the wake of the Kraken's silence. For the Dutchman still sailed. And hearts, once outside their bodies, do not always wish to return. No chest sealed by man remains untouched by greed, just as no key forged by desperation remains hidden forever. Long before it was taken to the ends of oceans and buried where sun forgot to touch the sand, the dead man's chest had already been mapped in whispers, in riddles spoken over rum, and in songs no one dared sing fully aloud. The beating heart inside it, soft and slow and unmistakably alive, was said to drive mad any man who held it for too long, not out of hunger for its magic, but out of recognition that in his hand, life itself pulsed for something long beyond death. That it could be ended. That one man's ruin could be commanded at will. It belonged once to Davy Jones, though not in the way limbs and sinew belong to a body. It belonged to him as conscience does, as wound does, something extracted, placed carefully away not to be forgotten, but to be spared. Or more truthfully, to be wielded when the burden of feeling grew too great. Before he turned to the sea as warden, Jones had once loved. Not in passing, but in fullness. Her name lost to most, but spoken in prayers by sailors who mistook divinity for beauty. Calypso. Not holy woman, not holy sea. A being that walked the edges of ships without leaving footprints, who watched tides not from cliffs but from within. Jones loved her. She returned the gesture in the way the sea returns anything, partially, momentarily, until it changes its mind. When she left him, or when she retreated, or when she simply remained as she was and he realized he could not change her, Jones tore his heart free. By blade or ritual or raw refusal to feel, he removed it from his chest and locked it in the carved embrace of a barnacled box adorned with the marks of gods and coral alike. He placed its key upon his person. He guarded both with a fervor that was nearly madness. Yet time, even for Jones, tugged at threadbare edges. Those who drew near the truth of the chest, be it Jack, or Will Turner, or Norrington, or any of the others who spent too long listening to Tia Dalma's warnings, came to understand only part. The heart did not grant power. It offered consequence. Whoever held it could command Jones, yes, but only in the way a man commands another by holding a blade against his throat. It guaranteed obedience and wrath in equal measure. Jack had sought the chest not out of cruelty, nor curiosity, but desperation. The Kraken hunted him, and by Jones's design alone. By clutching the heart, by threatening it, he hoped to delay further wrath, or, if possible, turn it against its own master. But Jack never held it long. Will saw in the chest a chance to free his father, whose soul rotted deeper into the planks of the Dutchman with every month past. Norrington, disgraced and cast adrift by royal fools who knew nothing of the ocean's rules, took it for favor to crawl back up the ladder of honor even if it meant climbing over corpses. Each man lied when asked what they would do with it. It was found in a hiding place both obvious and impossible, beneath bare sand, upon a spit of land unmarked by charts, where the wind changed directions mid-sentence. Jack himself stepped upon the patch of earth without knowing it until metal clicked beneath his heel. The chest revealed itself plain and silent, unguarded but not unthreatening. To open it was to hear something unnatural, something steady. The rhythm of a broken man whose anger had hardened into function. Inside, the heart lay uncovered, red and glistening. Will had the chance to destroy it then. Perhaps it would have ended much. But it beat like his own father's name still echoed, a name drifted too long in half-death upon the Dutchman's hull. Will hesitated. As did Jack. As did all who held blade too close. And then the key changed hands again. The chest was no longer in play on the battlefield when the Dutchman was bound to port by Beckett and his company men. It was kept in storage, boxed inside another box, guarded by red-sealed orders that no soldier read fully. Beckett claimed it as commodities officer might, an asset, not a relic. He did not care why it thumped, only that it could make the sea's most frightening captain kneel. He used it not only to steer Jones's ship, but to silence dissent. Pirate ships did not attack company convoys as they once had. Ghosts under the East India pennant now sailed with impunity. The Dutchman answered to ledgers. It was during this time that Beckett ordered the Kraken's death, using the heart not for domination, but domestication. Jones, bound by the pain sealed within his own missing organ, obeyed but did not approve. And pirates watched as nothing they feared remained appropriately feared. Salt had been tamed. Revenge had been salaried. Chaos had been boxed. And behind all of it pulsed the thing they could not name without trembling. The Brethren Court, long broken by petty rule and absent memory, stirred again in answer. 9 pieces of 8 were called. Old pirate lords, half-mad or half-lost, found speaking positions once more upon splintered council decks. Jack's vote mattered. Barbossa's mattered more, back from the grave, striding now with different purpose, drawn not to plunder but to war. Elizabeth Swan arrived cloaked in tragedy and armor alike, no longer needing to ask permission of any man. They could not stop Beckett without stopping the Dutchman. They could not stop the Dutchman while the heart remained in company hands. And so the chest became again the prize. Not for personal salvation. Not anymore. But as the final engine of control, the stone to unbalance empire's reach. The battle for the chest was never fought directly. Its possession leapt between hands, between intentions, between betrayals so fluid that even those dying in the struggle doubted their side before the end. The key remained Jones's, though he no longer wore it gleaming on deck. But Tia Dalma, watching through her mortal eyes, spoke of it once being worn around his neck, as if it pained him more to part with the key than the heart it locked. When Will found the key, hidden in a chamber beneath Dutchman's deck, wrapped in barnacle and soaked cloth, buried not for concealment but perhaps for mercy, he touched it with the caution one gives to things that speak back. The vault where the chest was kept moved thereafter. First to a company fortress, then aboard Beckett's flagship. Then, in the confusion of fleet maneuvers, it changed vessels again. Always guarded, rarely opened. No one wished to see inside it any longer. In the chaos of Maelstrom and final cannonade, when forces collided not by tactic but by inevitability, the chest once more lay at the center of all. The key and the blade, the hand and the wound, all converged aboard broken decks and wounded pride. In the final moments, the deed was done not by Jack, nor by Beckett, nor by Barbossa. It was Will who struck. Not from desire for power, but to save the father who could no longer save himself. Davy Jones, stabbed with his own heart, toppled not as a tyrant, nor as a monster, but as something approaching man again. He spoke of Calypso even then. Of betrayal. Of lover's curse. His heart beat once outside its box. Then never again. But the chest did not vanish. Will, now heir to the fate Jones abandoned, took the blade, then the burden. The heart would be removed once more, sealed again, not in rage or agony this time, but in sacrifice. Bound to ship, bound to tide, hidden as it had once been, ashore and offshore alike. The vault had no stone, no hinges, only time, an ocean, and it waits in that deep rhythm. Not for war, but for someone else who dares cut out what pain refuses to let stay buried. She had gone by many names before the maps were inked and before ships had names at all. Long before men spoke of nations or trade, she walked the shores none charted, where driftwood whispered secrets not even the seabirds could repeat and storms rarely ended in silence. They called her sea goddess, storm witch, water maiden. But to those who truly remembered, in the voices passed down through waves and salt-stained songs, she was Calypso. Not merely of the sea, but the sea itself. The swell, the calm, the senseless violence that took ship and sailor alike, and the sudden grace that spared one while another drowned. She was not cruel, no more than the gale was cruel. But she was never tame. And as the sea held no allegiance, neither did she. The pirates feared her. Some revered. Some sought her favors in dark places with darker offerings. A few claimed to have seen her form, barefoot in the mist, her eyes black as deep water and her hair tangled with eelgrass. Most brushed off the stories. Yet the rites remained, whispers at masthead, knots undone before voyage, coins tossed from the prow without wish or prayer. She was there, whether called or not. Davy Jones, before the barnacles, before the madness, loved her. It isn't known when or where it began. Only that he met her as men meet the sea, bold, foolish, certain they are the first until swallowed whole. She returned his affection in her own way, not as harbour master, but as horizon. She walked for him, stepped from tide to earth and wore skin over storm. He pledged himself, not in ritual, nor law, but in emotion. And then she asked something of him. To ferry souls. Not merely to the other side, like a servant of death, but to grant choice, give passage, refuge, release. Jones would sail the Dutchman every 10 years ashore, to seek land, to breathe like a man, to rest from his burden. In return, he would see to those who died at sea, offering them a place on his crew when the alternative was deeper darkness. In time, it became more than duty. It became curse. One voyage, he did not return. He waited. Rendered onto wave what he once had loved in skin. And she, refusing to plead, let him wait. She, who touched countless tides, would not chase another. It was betrayal for him. For her, it was simply truth again taking its shape after illusion ended. Whatever Davy Jones had once felt, tenderness or awe, it turned inward and black. He tore his heart out to forget her. But forgetting does not remove the bond. Still bitter, still bound, he gave her name to those who hated chaos, the pirate lords whose power frayed each time a rogue current defied their roots. The Brethren Court, in the years when their power was closest to law, did not fear her storms. What they feared was that they could not predict her. And so they met. 9 in number, pirate lords from every sea and salt-stripped corner. They conspired not to kill her. That was impossible. But to confine. They captured Calypso, not with chains of iron, but with the oldest kind of enchantment, binding her inside the form of a woman, sealing her divinity in mortal bone. She breathed air, felt time, aged slowly behind smoky eyes. Reduced. Not voiceless, but unheard. And so she became Tia Dalma. Swamp Dweller. Remedicella. Cirrus. Witch. Her house stood half-sunk in brackish water, herbs and teeth suspended from rafters, jars that blinked when one dared look long. Most saw her only when in need. A charm to sway the wind. A poultice for a wound. But always with a warning at the edge of her grin. Jack went to her often. Not for magic. For answers he knew he'd twist into something else before the next moon. She knew who he was. Knew the compass he carried. Knew even before he did how his path would carry him toward Davy Jones with more than coin at stake. When he fell, truly fell, swallowed by the kraken and sent to the locker no man returns from, she did not mourn. Instead, she summoned the old names again. She knew only one truth greater than the tides: death is a cage, and cages are meant to break. So she waited until they came, the broken crew of the Pearl, Will, Elizabeth, Gibbs, and even Barbossa, returned from death for just such a purpose. She watched them all beg for a way back to Jack. She entertained the idea that they deserved him, not because they had loved him, but because they needed him alive for their stories to move forward. Still, she helped, weaving the direction to the locker into sails, giving them a map not in ink but in fold and motion, a map that could not be followed in thought, only in memory and illusion. But she had her price. Set her free. They agreed. Or enough of them agreed. In truth, none understood fully what they promised. They believed they would sail to retrieve a ship and a man. But what they summoned, by intent or not, was the past without chains. They reached the locker, a vast desert of sand and sorrow, where ships lie beached like bones and time folds inward. Jack was there, split across hallucination, speaking to copies of himself and manning a pearl that wouldn't sail. In death, he had not found silence. He had simply found loneliness. The kind that folds in on itself until nothing real remains. He was pulled back, not by magic, but by collective will. Agreement among those who had hated or loved or followed him now turned his face upward again, toward seas that remembered his touch. The pearl returned with him, fading into water again, leaving the locker still behind. Upon return, Tia Dalma stood quiet. All debts were not yet paid. Barbossa, who had once mutinied, once died, once asked for her help through gritted teeth, was the one to unlock her prison. He broke the jar. The spell. She screamed then, not out of pain, but out of risk, out of volume long held too quiet. The sea answered. Calypso. Not fully sea, not fully flesh. Vast, vast beyond understanding. She swelled into a form not measured by deck or sky. Towered with fog and storm and salt made visible. And she looked at them, all of them, with the gaze of eternity stopped only briefly for inspection. But she did not join their side. Did not retake her place beside those who had bound her. She laughed. Mocked their wars. Mocked their desperation. They had asked her for help. Her answer came not as alliance, but as storm. She turned into Maelstrom, not metaphor but motion, summoned whirlpool teeth beneath enemy and friend alike. Ships collided amidst her fury, not directed, but permitted. The Dutchman and the Pearl spiraled around her, their fates entwined further still. Then she was gone. Not slain. Not captured. Gone the way weather vanishes, still echoing beyond horizon, but unreachable by compass or chart. Whether she watches still is unknown. Some say she laughs at every drowning. Others believe the tides now move slightly off from the moon, alignment shifted just enough to mark her passage. But in every storm that spins too tightly, in every bay where no wind moves, and yet the water swirls, they say she remembers and waits. There had once been a time, long before the empires reached deep enough to tax breath itself, when pirates did not govern through fear or flag alone. Then, across seas unclaimed by map and beyond the settled choke of colonial rule, the salt-born captains ruled by blood and ballast, each the master of their own cause, answering to no king but the tide. But even that kind of freedom, too expansive to hold in cup or oath, began to fray as gold sharpened blades and navies multiplied. To preserve what little lawlessness remained, the pirates crafted a law of their own. From the scattered holdfasts of the east to the rounded coastlines of the west, 9 pirate lords came together, each representing a sea, each bringing with them not only crews and cannon but their most secret fears of extinction. They founded the Brethren Court, not out of harmony, but out of necessity, a banding of wolves who knew the hunters were growing more numerous. Each held a piece of 8, though none of the items were truly coin. Trinkets, scraps, charms, pieces in name only, passed down like tokens of fealty to a cause no longer clearly defined. The court met rarely, and always at Shipwreck Cove, a place spoken of in uncertain terms by those who'd never seen it and seldom spoken of at all by those who had. All hull, all ruin, stacked like driftwood bones in the shape of civilization's failed promise. There the pirates gathered when the world turned too sharp to sail. They gathered once more in the wake of Calypso's undoing. The East India Trading Company, commanded by Cutler, Beckett and Boyd, with both the legal authority of empire and the unlawful fury of the Flying Dutchman, had begun to wipe piracy off the map. No quarter was given. Shores were burned. Codes were broken. The Dutchman sailed beneath company flag now, and death was no longer a punishment but a policy. The call went out. Rigetti, the one-eyed fool who was fool only in appearance, whispered the old rites into the sea. Barbossa, now back from the grave for reasons murmured only by moonlight, carried the message on salt-lick paper with edges so charred it was uncertain what hands had delivered it. Law spoke of the brethren as broken, retired, or buried. But answers came. From Singapore, Saophone replied first, Lord of the South China Sea, a man carved from ambition and sweat and mistrust. His harbor was guarded by heat and dagger, his body inked with sea and oath. He bore his piece of eight still, an old salt-glazed coin-hole strung from his beard, and while wary of Jack Sparrow and all his shifting alliances, he understood the stakes clearly. The sea was no longer wide. It was being caged. And even he would one day find his hull paved over by warships unless steps were taken. The others followed, one by one. Lords from Mediterranean ruins and Saharan shores, from wind-sliced Nordic water and heat-strangled African crossings. Some came aboard ships barely held together by prayer and rope. Others arrived silent, deliberately unannounced, climbing through wrecked spars in the cover of night. Shipwreck Cove whispered with stories as it filled again, every voice sharpened with recollection and resentment. Elizabeth Swan, now bereaved daughter, betrayed lover, and accidental pirate, found herself there among them, differently equipped, not with legend or years at sea, but with presence that neither asked approval nor required it. Barbossa had brought her, and though the lords mocked her elevation at first, he pointed out plainly that she bore a captain's burden greater than many who wore the title. Saophone, felled in betrayal, had in his final act granted her his title, naming her captain even as he died in rain and aching heat. The brethren scoffed, but the sea, and the code, made little room for scoffing. The roles had been fulfilled. She was now pirate lord of the South China Sea. And war made strange bedfellows. Jack, in typical fashion, arrived not as herald but as smuggled cargo, having narrowly escaped yet another gallows in the confusion between Beckett's gold and Jones's wrath. His piece, the 9th piece of 8, had long since been claimed. He had not always kept it close, but somehow it had found its way back to him as these things tend to do. He wore it now in his hair, bound beside beads and bones. The convening of the brethren was as unruly as could be expected from ancient enemies, liars, and stories wearing human skin. Each sought his or her own path through the thickets of encroaching war. Some hoped only to vote for parley, for survival. Others, elders whose time on the sea was nearing its edge, spoke openly of surrender, cloaked in grand reasoning. Yet a current passed through the hall even as voices rose. Barbossa argued for release. Not of death, but of Calypso. She, he claimed, would be their storm. Their untamed force against the Dutchman's calculated terror. Not a god to serve, but a sea no company man could conquer. Though they had bound her once, she had only grown deeper in her echo. And perhaps, just perhaps, she might side with the pirates once more, or not for love, not for favor, but simply to shatter the chains spread across her waters. Each lord held power to agree or oppose. And as custom demanded, they turned to the 9th vote, the tiebreaker, always Jack. He abstained. His reasons, as usual, were entirely Jack's. Perhaps he hoped the others would reach arms for the sea on their own. Maybe he feared that the goddess bound in bones would remember who betrayed her most. Or perhaps he simply liked watching powerful men beg for inevitability to blink first. Silence followed. Accusations. Then, Barbossa made his move. If Jack would not vote, then someone else would. The code made no provision for absence, only for presence. Anne Elizabeth was present, and as the newly named pirate lord, carried both the right and the weight. She voted for war. No fanfare. Just breath against wood. The tide of that word broke the court's tension, and with it, the rules of containment that had held Calypso's spirit silent for so long. The brethren left the cove not allied, but active. They did not sail under one flag, but their sails turned windward with singular inevitability. The Flying Dutchman would not be outmaneuvered by tradition. And Becket, holding no title but many ledgers, deployed steel and soul to every corner of known water. Jack still held the compass, turning endlessly in his hand toward desires he no longer trusted. Elizabeth held blade and burden. Will held time, watching the seconds narrow as Jones's fate crept over the faces of the men he served beside. Each had returned to the sea, to parley, not for peace, but for final measure. Where once they vied for trinket and legend, they now moved not to pursue treasure, but to keep the sea unburied. Above them, the storm brewed. Not summoned. Not begged. But allowed. Calypso had heard their call. And she had answered, not with mercy, but with wave. The sky was not dark, not fully, when the Dutchman and the Pearl met once more, but the light had forgotten its warmth. It was that icy glow that settles over the sea just before something ancient wakes below it. The clouds gathered not with haste, but a slow rotation barely visible to the naked eye. It was as if the world was holding its breath, the entire horizon pulled taut as canvas straining toward calamity. Shipwreck Cove lay far behind. Parley had been offered, ignored, broken. Becket had no interest in truce, only in submission. And the pirates, wounded and scattered, had nothing left to barter but storm. They sailed into it with no certainty of survival. Jack Sparrow at the Pearl's wheel wore his hat low but with his eyes always lifted, not scanning the horizon, but watching the shift in the air that no map could track. Elizabeth Swan stood near him, not as stowaway nor rescued damsel, but as captain, named in the chaos of final vote, her decision wrapped in a simple truth: freedom once bargained away cannot be bartered for again. It must be won, and taken by those willing to hollow their sails for it. Barbossa, strange in his return from death, moved like a man who had tasted something beyond the veil and had found it unworthy. Certainly not restful. He barked orders with his teeth clenched, his blade drawn not for scene but survival. And Will Turner, son of a man already claimed by one ghost ship, now stood knowing that, win or lose, his course led ever downward, toward the Dutchman, toward his father, toward a fate he had not chosen but could not deny. The Dutchman appeared ahead, silent despite the churn beneath her hull. Becket's flag flew from his own vessel, the Endeavour, stationed farther off, watching. Cold. It did not engage. Becket, for all his ruthlessness, had made himself a spectator to the breaking of the world, a man unwilling to stain his gloves, even as the sea caught flame. Then Calypso moved. She had not spared them. Calypso, once caged in mortal skin, had shed her shape in the cove. The ropes that bound her, to body, to box, to breath, had unraveled through ritual and refusal. Her answer to liberation had not been alliance. It had been tempest. Her wrath took form not as beam or bolt, but in spiral, pulling the water downward, away from sky, into a spinning throat deep enough to drain centuries. A maelstrom. It opened slowly, greedily. A great eye of water turning so vast that even the Pearl and the Dutchman seemed like insects balanced on its rim. No plan worked once inside it. No tactic survived once pull became stronger than tide. So each ship turned not outward, but inward, arrows easing them around the spiral, not into it, yet always on its edge. The Pearl and the Dutchman, opposites in sail and spirit, closed upon each other until hull scraped hull and cannon leapt like thunder from shared breath. There was no line between sea and sky then. Only noise. Salt. and the echo of agony unstuck from time. They boarded each other not by plank but by wind, men swinging from tangled yards, daggers drawn. Jones's crew, half flesh and half ocean floor, fought with the fury of beings who no longer remembered agency, who slaughtered because resistance was the final gesture of identity they could still perform. The Pearl's crew, though smaller, held belief instead of rot, the belief that death was not defeat, and that the sea belonged not to companies nor contracts but those who survived long enough to love her. Somewhere in the fray, Will reached the chest. Somewhere in that madness, the heart of the sea's jailer thumped still. Jack reached it too. Each man looked at the other and saw not enemy, but an echo. Jack, who had always dug for a path just outside of death, now faced a mirror, Will, who was stepping straight into it. Will wanted to destroy the heart, to put an end to the servitude, to end the chain his father could not escape. Jack wanted the same freedom, but feared the price. If Will placed the blade into Jones's heart, he would take Jones's place, become captain of the Dutchman, ferry souls damned by wave and weather until his own soul fell beneath coral. But Will did not flinch. He was stabbed before he could act. Jones, retreating not in defeat but in wrath, had recognized the threat. His blade slid into Will's heart beneath cracks of light. It was too late to stop him, and too late to save him. But Jack caught Will as he fell. For all his twisted legacy, for all his debts unpaid, Jack Sparrow had not forgotten loyalty entirely. Drawing Will's hand in his own, he guided the knife downward, into the chest, into Jones's old heart, and with that simple motion, Will bled into history. Jones fell, not screaming, but fading, as though he had been a shadow masquerading as fury all along. The sea changed instantly. The maelstrom narrowed. Above them, thunder split in retreat. The Dutchman sank, briefly, but rose again, whole and altered. Her new captain stood bloodless upon the deck but not lifeless. Will Turner. Heart removed. Hidden once more in chest and hold. Bound now to serve, not as punishment, but penance, which, in the sea's tongue, remains much the same. The Pearl turned upward, out of the churn, her crew barely holding ropes as the water reformed into something resembling calm. Behind them, the Dutchman cut silently through spray, still spectral, but no longer vengeful. The Endeavour had waited. Beckett, watching through polished lenses, saw all. But he had not counted on change. He had counted on Jones's rage, not on Will Turner's fate. When the Pearl and the Dutchman fell in line, facing him not alone but as sequence and storm, Beckett did not order engagement. He wasn't given the opportunity. His officers stood frozen. His sailors looked to empty air. And as twin broadsides tore through Endeavour, he merely walked, expression unreadable, as wood split behind him and fire crowned his last moments. Silence followed. Brief. Final. The Dutchman turned, vanished waveward. The Pearl held her course. Will, now burdened with eternity, returned to Elizabeth for only an hour. Long enough to speak, to touch, to bind soul to shore. She gave him her heart while his beat offshore. A promise born of tragedy as much as of love. Every 10 years, he would return. That was the cost. Jack left quietly. Returned to the sea not in glory, but with a boat half stolen and a map half burned. Barbossa took the Pearl for what seemed the final time, compass traded, code remembered, debts left unpaid. Elizabeth remained on land. A captain no longer. A bride not fully wed. A mother, perhaps, when next the tide came in. And the sea, having watched all, forgot none of it. The Maelstrom closed. But the storm remains, somewhere beneath memory. Always turning. The sea holds no calendar. Time there is measured not in dates or holidays, but in storms survived, in sails replaced, and in the salt that gathers beneath the ribs of men who outlive the names they once answered to. After the Maelstrom closed, after the last broadside fell silent and the wreckage of the East India Trading Company vanished beneath the tide, the world did not change so much as it tilted. Not all the way. Just enough that those who lingered in its wake felt the slosh of something unsettled. Just enough to know that the old war had cost more than banners and names. It did not take long for the flags to return. Red, royal, black, and blood-stained alike. Merchant ships again took to their routes, though their songs now sounded with a touch more hesitation. Pirate ships flew their sigils with less pride, many choosing anonymity over tale. With Beckett beneath the water and Davy Jones replaced by someone far less cruel, balance, thin though it was, returned. But the shape of that balance had changed. The Dutchman, once feared for its wrath, now sailed with a quieter purpose. Where once it was a hunter of souls, now it was a keeper. Will Turner, bound by blade and ritual, kept to the agreed course. Every 10 years on land. All rest at sea. His face did not weather, but his heart no longer beat within his chest. It remained hidden, locked again within the dead man's chest, placed somewhere only the Dutchman's captain would ever reach. He bore the pain of it with silence. His father, Bootstrap Bill, now free in service to his son, stood beside him on deck. They were kin-bound in eternal labor, ferrying those lost and unclaimed. To most, the ship became myth once more, spotted rarely, spoken of only in storms, stories of a green glowing hull cresting impossible mist, ghosts manning the rigging, sails stitched from shadow. Elizabeth saw him once in that 10-year mark. Only once. Upon a cliff north of where Shipwreck Cove had once cast long shadows over drifting hulls, she stood with wind in her hair and wordless hope in her eyes. He came as promised, the tide parting not with raw but subtle invitation. They did not speak much. They did not cry. They stood side by side, one living, one enduring. At his back, the Dutchman hung like memory. In her arms, their son waited, still small enough to remember nothing of what she would soon tell him. Their hour passed. Too swift. The sea took her husband again. But in that short moment, Will Turner knew what he ferried souls for. Time grew strange after that. Jack Sparrow wandered. Not as captain, not always with crew, but as presence. The Black Pearl, now once again in Barbossa's possession, obeyed the older pirate's order. Barbossa had taken her not through mutiny, this time, but through pretense. He had made promises of charted courses, spoken in terms of shared interests, but Jack had never trusted him entirely. When Barbossa left with compass and crew, Jack took only what he could carry. That did not include the ship. Left alone and rudderless, he drifted. Drank more. Spoke with whispers no one else heard. The compass remained, retrieved again through tricks and bargains unrecorded, but it spun now in a way Jack could no longer read. It pointed to what he wanted most, and Jack, whether through age, or loss, or exhaustion, no longer knew quite what that was. He chased one thing, only one, the map to the fountain of youth. Not for glory. Not even for immortality. Jack had seen how long life warped the mind. He had watched Jones rot from heart out. Had seen Barbossa claw his way back from a grave only to hunger for thrones. No, Jack did not want forever. He wanted control. He wanted, perhaps, to decide when the tide stopped threading their fingers through his story. The fountain, then, not as a drink of eternity, but as leverage. So he searched. Others sought it too. Word spread, as it always does, a spring somewhere within reach of the New World's jungles, where soft water bubbled in stone casings carved before man's memory. A source that could undo time. All who aged feared it. All who lost pursued it. Among those who followed the currents, the Spanish crown, ever protective of their Catholic dominion over trespasses into the arcane, old corsairs desperate not to die from knife or era, and finally, an old name returned like blown smoke, Edward Teach, Blackbeard. Blackbeard had never needed myth. He carved it from the bodies of those who defied him and from ships left burning at port. His Queen Anne's revenge sailed wreathed in canon and superstition. Some said he lit ropes in his beard to appear like a demon. Some said his ship drank the souls of those he cut down. What few knew is that Blackbeard feared the same end all pirates did, not gallows, but irrelevance. He wanted the fountain. Jack came within reach of it more than once. Each time, something denied him. A broken bearing. A rival hired into betrayal. And finally, capture. His name still carried infamy, and infamy always draws ropes. The British caught him. Not to hang, but to borrow. They wanted the fountain too. So they pressed Jack into guidance, into deception. Made use of counterfeit papers, forged captains, and names bought not with coin, but with threat. Barbossa, now in royal favor, had reinvented himself. Not pirate, but privateer. Flying the Union Jack, answering to crown writ, he pursued the fountain not for freedom, but for conquest. On the Queen's orders. Jack saw through all of it. The map, long lost, required more than reading. Pieces had passed between hands, some literal, some spoken. The route guarded by traps and symbols. Mermaids, once only legend, became real and dangerous, and alluring reminders that the sea does not ever fully empty itself of myth. He watched men lured into the depths not with song, but with desire mistaken for invitation. He heard the music of their deaths in his sleep. To use the fountain's gift required ritual. 2 chalices. Water from the spring. A mermaid's tear. 2 must drink. Only one would live. The other would die, but pass their remaining years into the one who drank beside them. Blackbeard intended to live forever. His daughter, Angelica, stood beside him. Raised a pirate, trained a conqueror, and perhaps, once, wounded by Jack true enough to remember it vividly. In the confrontation that followed, intention unraveled as it always does. The fountain was reached. 1 chalice passed, then another. Jack made the switch never directly. Just enough that Blackbeard drank not from salvation, but from sacrifice. Angelica, believing she would save her father, drank his death instead. In the end, Jack saved none of them. Blackbeard died as he fought, grasping for more than he was owed, still trying to outwit rituals so old not even the jungle remembered them. Angelica cried. Blamed. Swore. He left her behind, as he always did. Jack had not gained immortality. But he had denied it to others. No records kept what happened after with precision. Barbossa found a kingdom in the wake of conquest, his leg wood, his ship iron, his ambitions anchored deeper into law than before. He no longer spoke of freedom, only of dominion. Gibbs left his side eventually and returned to Jack, ever loyal to a man who could not stay still, drawn to the compass even as it circled aimlessly. Elizabeth raised her son. She did not remarry. Some say she kept watch over sea charts far too often for someone land-bound. Will ferried souls. The waves, unmarked, continued. Storms passed. Ships rotted. Flags changed. But the sea did not forget. And the time between events became not absence, but silence. The kind before rhythm. The kind before return. Before compasses, there were stars. Before stars, there were stones carved by hands that remembered the shapes of clouds and the places where the sun changed tone. But before all of those, long before ship or chart or conquest, there were pools of water sheltered beneath jagged canopy. Hidden not by direction, but by invitation. Waters older than belief and clearer than intention. Waters that could not be seen unless one already hoped to drink from them. Waters that legends named the Fountain of Youth. No record confirms when first it was spoken of, only that it had seeped into sailors' tongues before timber and sail crossed oceans white with fog. Once, it was said to rest in lands beneath the sun where horizon meant the end of the earth. The Spanish, eager to cling to every island that resisted English breath, called it La Fuente de la Juventud. And Hernando de Soto, Juan Ponce de Leon, names written into the bones of conquest, had tried to find it not because they believed in life everlasting, but because they feared an end poorly written. None returned with proof. But rumors returned in their place. And for pirates, rumors traveled truer and faster than trade winds. Jack Sparrow heard the tale more than once, often in moments when hangovers mixed with gunfire, when the tide was too slow and the only map visible came from an old man's scar. At first he dismissed it. He dismissed everything once, before chasing it. But over time, Jack came to understand that the fountain was not just myth, not simply legend misremembered. He had lived too long among things that should not exist, ghost crews, sea goddesses, hearts removed and buried apart from body, to believe that such water did not sit somewhere, waiting. He began searching in pieces. Not openly, Jack's searches never took place in daylight. His movements were stitched between misadventures, as he fled one mutiny and prepared another. Between bars and betrayals, he asked questions. The kind that made men nervous. The kind that made mapmakers leave marks that had no keys. He discovered the name of a man who had seen the fountain and died before he could return, Juan Ponce de Leon, left with a sword in his chest and a map carved not into paper, but into the twisted folds of a scabbed old route lost to any sane navigator. The conquistador had reached it, perhaps. Or he had dreamed of it so vividly that he convinced others it must exist. And in that dreaming, in that bone-scattered wake left through Florida's uncharted strands, he unknowingly set the terms for every soul who would chase that path after him. One needed three things: the map, the chalices, and the tear of a mermaid. The map was no longer fully intact. Jack encountered fragments. Pages lost within charts that bore no title, symbols etched in bone beneath coats of paint sharpened only under firelight. Eventually, he heard of an old priest's repository, where angels' faces were carved blank and the ink never faded, even under seawater. The chalices, a pair believed to originate from a long-dead crusader, were locked in stone hands folded above the crypt of a forgotten king, behind a collapsed mission cloister deep in land grown thick with poison vines. Both silver. One lined with obsidian. Marked not in scripture but in symbols older than any church. The mermaid's tear was another matter entirely. The legends had always sung of sirens, half woman, half wonder, drawing men to the sea's grave with promises of pleasure or redemption. but the truth was older and sharper. Mermaids were real, elemental, and cruel with the indifference of tide. They lived in colonies beneath limestone bluffs, in waters too cold for natural breath. Their voices tangled even the clearest orders at sea. Their teeth were sharper than their songs. Catching one would require bait. It was Blackbeard who laid the trap. Not in wisdom, but in need. His death sat too near and whispered too loud. His ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, rode out not on sails but on dread. He hunted the fountain not to dominate it, but to survive it. Deluded or prophetic, he came to believe the tides would reclaim him unless he drank. He enslaved his own future for a chance at more present. Angelica, his daughter, followed him. Not because she believed in the treasure, nor in the gift, but because blood had its echo. She was her father's daughter in ways even she feared, saw in herself the ambition, the willingness to use others as rope when the climb grew steep. She had trained with blades. She had prayed in churches. But at the end, she placed her faith in pursuit. Jack, swept into this tangle through threat and favor both, found himself again drawn toward something half real, half remembered. They found the mermaids in Whitecap Bay, a place devoid of wind but thick with omen. Boats stilled not from lack of breeze, but from decision, the sea itself resisting intrusion. The waters there were quiet, until they weren't. They came with beauty, with darkness, with force. They hissed through fire, dragged men beneath lantern-lit docks, shattered hulls with the ease of coral cracking under boot. But one was captured. Serena. Unlike the others, she wept. A tear, caught as it fell, became their key to the fountain. Not given, but stolen. She had not cried for them. She had cried for the man who bled for her. But theft from the sea is no less potent than gift. The magic remains, even when taken. So they sailed. Jack, Barbossa, Blackbeard, and Angelica, all now pursuing the same destination for different reasons. It is said that when they reached the spot marked by the sun's shadow on the carved rock of the eastern sky face, the fountain revealed itself slowly, as though waking after long disuse. Columns of spray spilled yet never overflowed. Waters ran silent. Smooth. Deceptively still. But no place of myth offers its bounty without trial. A Spanish dispatch reached the fountain first. Not to claim it, but to deny it to all others. For them, it was heresy. The immortality of man must lie with God, not with puddles hidden beneath stone. They smashed the goblets, collapsed portions of the chamber housing the spring, drew blades with little hesitation, fought not for the water but against the idea that others might receive it. Jack managed the chalices. Reclaimed. Hidden. Substituted. Blackbeard, wounded, dying, sought to swallow the fountain's gift. Angelica, terrified and in half-truth, drank alongside him. Jack made the switch. Blackbeard's body twisted, aged where it wished to strengthen, drained into death. Angelica absorbed the years. She would live, though one wonders if longer life is ever truly a blessing for those who watch others fade. Jack left her behind. He did not trust himself beside her any longer. And the fountain? Lost again. Whether swallowed by earth or covered over by Spanish force, none can say. Those who know where it sat cannot find the path twice. Even Jack, who once traced every step, cannot recall which direction turned true. Some say the magic is undone. Others whisper that the tear, once spent, sealed the spring for another age. But sailors still speak of it. Not as destination. As warning. That too much life leaves a man hollow. That some waters are quiet because they wait for the next thief. And beneath the jungle-capped stones, the fountain waits still. No longer flowing. Only listening. Whitecap Bay lies east of nowhere and west of memory. It shows no permanence on charts, yet those who found themselves unguided after violent squalls and broken masts whisper of it. A cove bounded by cliffs too steep to scale, where moonlight strikes the water in ribbons too symmetrical to be natural. The bay is shallow at first approach, but dark beyond believable depth within 20 strokes of the shoreline. Boats do not anchor easily there, sails hang heavy even under fair wind, and the scent of brine grows sharp, like metal in the mouth, long before the shore appears. It is not marked with warning symbols. No skull etched into reef stone, no monuments from failed fleets. Just silence. And tide pulled back a little too far. Always a little too far. Men do not name places like Whitecap Bay. They inherit them. In taverns and along dockside barrels, its name floats through the smoke-soft conversations of old sailors who now claim to fear nothing. They do not speak of treasure buried under the sand there. They do not tell of lost ships to be plundered just out of sight. They speak only of them. The mermaids. The legends ran long before the Pearl or the Dutchman, older than Jack Sparrow or Blackbeard, older even than the Company and Crown. Beautiful, yes, beautiful in the way carved cameos are, smooth and cold and impossibly symmetrical. But their beauty is only important for the seconds before the drowning begins. The water in Whitecap Bay does not ripple. It draws. Long past sunset, when fog begins to lift in even strands and the boats creak from stillness as though they shiver, the mermaids come. They do not rise. They appear. Between the bobbing lantern light and the waterline, they surface in silence, arms gently gripping broken harpoons, teeth slightly visible behind curved lips. Crystals hang like salt drop earrings on their skin, formed naturally by time and pressure. Their hair floats even when the sea stills. Their eyes never blink. They do not speak first. Those who've survived an encounter recall hearing songs like wind through hollow spars, not from voice, but from behind one's ears. Not music, but memory. One sailor remembered the smell of his childhood home right before he jumped overboard. Another claimed to have seen his first wife as a reflection on the surface, even though she died 20 years prior, buried beneath a hill 5 miles from any coastline. Then the mermaids strike. Their strength is not from size, though their muscle rivals that of scaled sharks. It's from precision. Their claws pull ropes tighter than deckhands. They move faster in 10 feet of water than men do running across the sand. Harpoons are broken before they draw blood. Pistols misfire more often near them, as though the damp air thickens itself at just the wrong second. But the most terrifying part is what happens when a mermaid is caught. They scream. Not in pain, but in rage. The kind of rage that sharpens stone to voice. One captured above the tide snapped her tail fin against 8 men's legs before they bound her in netting soaked with holy oil and wound coral ropes around her wrists and throat. Still, it took fire, lit in a circle drawn of salt, to keep her docile. And even then, her eyes blinked water toward one man's face for long enough that he tore at his own ears before morning. He said she was saying something through the water. Jack Sparrow stood quiet the first time he saw one fully. It was Serena they caught, not the eldest of her kind, but one whom the others watched. She was not docile. But she did allow capture. And those who witnessed it came to believe she wept genuinely. Not because she was afraid, but because someone had died for her. Philip, a man of the cloth, caught in seas far removed from cathedral steps, drowned not by current, but by proximity. When she wept, they collected her tear. Only one was needed. It rolled off her cheek like dew on kelp and did not dissolve. They caught it as it fell into the narrow neck of the silver chalice intended for the fountain of youth. And in that one motion, eternity changed hands. But her fate did not. She was taken, bound, carried through jungle paths, still hissing when looked upon, still silent when spoken to. Her presence lingered like a perfume none could name, something between sorrow and low-tide rot. But Jack, who had seen illusion before, watched her closely. He had seen Tia Dalma speak through pouring soap and bone. He had heard the half-whispered riddles of Calypso echo between trees. This was no ordinary woman. This was something unanswerable trying to inhabit the cruelty of men without submitting to it. And then, just before the ritual, she vanished. Some say she was freed by Philip's ghost. Others say Blackbeard allowed it, fearing powers even he dared not name. Few believe she escaped on her own. But they all remember the wake left behind her, a grip in the air that made steel rust overnight, fish turn belly up in still ponds, and seagulls avoid the inlet for weeks. Serena spared none from her gaze before she disappeared beneath the earth-fed channel that led, indirectly and impossibly, back to Whitecap Bay. It is said she returned to her sisters. That she told them how she was taken. And that from that day on, no ship that left fresh offering near the bay was attacked, while those who passed without remembering were never seen again. Since then, captains learn hard or die sudden. If you pass through Whitecap now, and your keel slows without cause, you leave silver in the tide. Just one piece. Any piece. Or else you feel eyes in the water, first soft, then surely there, and then your crew begins noticing vanishing lanterns. Whitecap Bay holds the stillness of breath just before dive. The beauty of a face you once loved, glimpsed in the swell. And the danger of all things patient. Mermaids aren't monsters. They're reminders that the sea does not flirt. It lures. And what it lures, it often keeps. Some captains win fear through steel, through precision, through victories written and remembered. Others gain it not because of the battles they fought, but because no one who fought against them came back with tongue enough to tell what happened. Edward Teach, Blackbeard, belonged to the second kind. His was a name already swollen with nightmare before his ship was finished being nailed together. Queen Anne's Revenge, they called it. But those who saw her at dusk, bearing downwind beneath streamer-like cords of black smoke, didn't speak of royalty. They spoke of fire and ash. The ship was too fast for her size, too dark for reflection, and too quiet when she moved. Blackbeard threaded slow-burning coils through his beard and along his jacket seams, setting them alight just before battle. His appearance was never left to rumor. He made sure every man who glimpsed his silhouette beneath the approaching storm imagined him forged in it. Some said he could trap wind. Others whispered, only half believing, that he'd cut off a finger once only to test the range of his crew's obedience. No tale was the same, but they all ended with surrender. Or with silence. He did not begin his journey looking for eternity, but spirits as cruel as his do not age quietly. He made his way through the Caribbean not as a raider, but as a king without a kingdom, claiming islands and ports not for flags, but for memory. He wanted legacy, not carved in books, but in dread. He took ships with minimal cannon fire. Most captains lowered their colors at sight. Others required a demonstration. It never took more than one. His crew were chosen not for loyalty, but for capability. Cutthroats, deserters, former priests. Snake oil speakers with sabers and pocket maps. No one aboard the Revenge asked questions. Some claimed he practiced dark rites in the hold. Others claimed there was no hold, only a vast chamber cloaked in perfumes and bones. It was said that the wind blowing from his sails smelled faintly of charred wood and tobacco, even in storm. And then came the court of cannibals. There was an island, name unspoken in charts, but passed between smugglers docked for only one night, where the sand whispered at night, and the trees bore marks of teeth, not blade. The people there had lived centuries untouched by European law or religion. They believed, perhaps rightly, that flesh carried memory, and that by consuming certain men, they could learn not only their skills, but their secrets. Blackbeard brought them prisoners. Not his own men, but those he rounded up, officers, missionaries, captains of slow ships whose cargo had no coin but might be traded for bargain. In return, he asked for only one thing, the right. We do not know what it entailed. Only that he returned from the firelight and the torn drumming with calmer eyes and a dagger slick with sap or blood indistinguishable in the smoke. Something had been done. Something had been taken. Something had been buried after. His men noted that he spoke less of plunder and more of prophecy. And he began to carry a sword different from the rest, a weapon known by name only to those who feared him most. The sword of Trident. Its name preceded its confirmation. Many said it was a myth. That no blade could command the motion of ships. That no cutlass, black with scorched etching and bone along the hilt, could force rudder nor wind to listen. But the Queen and Revenge moved like no other ship thereafter. With a tilt that could not be clocked. With anchorless arrivals and departures through windless inlets. Cannon crews said they fired before they were ordered, as if compelled. Ships' wheels twisted of their own will. And those who muttered mutiny found rope round their throats before finishing their threats. The blade, whether magic or merely feared, had cost something. And whatever bargain Teach struck on that island, it bound more than just storm to his side. Blackbeard no longer knew rest. From then on, he sailed not to grow his name, but to freeze it. To ensure death couldn't find him if he simply never stopped moving. He hunted myths because he feared becoming one too early. The fountain of youth, the chalices, the mermaid, none of these pursuits were born of heart, only of terror. The dread of ending. The horror of being forgotten. Jack, in his own way, had always laughed at such things. But Blackbeard did not laugh. He took what he wanted, including faith. Forced priests to recite rites before every storm crossing. Cut down men for looking too long at his sword when unsheathed. And yet, he fathered a daughter. Angelica. Whether born of love or necessity remains unknown. Some say she was the only survivor from one of his raids, taken as infant and raised aboard. Others claim she came looking for him years later, claiming inheritance with blade in hand. She followed him. Believed in him. Until she didn't. When their fates crossed with Jack Sparrow's again, when he was captured, threatened, and pulled into their scheme, it became clear Blackbeard had begun to fracture beneath the surface. His magic, if magic it was, did not keep. He aged as all men do, but louder. Bones ached more. Breath thinned faster. and he grew more desperate to reach the spring he could no longer find by chart. He believed the fountain would forgive his bargains. That if he could drink from it, once, just once, he would not have to remember every scream. That his soul, blackened or bruised or bound, could be spared. His daughter tried to believe it with him, though whether out of devotion or fear, none could quite say. Serena was brought to him. The tear redded. The chalices arranged. His faith in ritual matched his faith in threat. He moved slowly toward the edge of immortality, never assuming it might betray him as everything else eventually had. When the chalices were switched, when Jack offered the gift to Angelica rather than to him, Blackbeard drank the cup brimming with sacrifice. And his body, once feared for its strength, withered. The storm did not come for him. The sea did not roar. He simply aged in fast, ugly increments, every second abrading his form like sand on wood. His eyes saw what he became, and then saw no more. His body, torn by time rather than blade, collapsed near the water he had hoped would grant him escape. The sword of Triton fell beside him, no longer humming, no longer burning. Just metal again. Just cold. The Queen Anne's Revenge, without her captain, did not scream nor sink. She drifted, halted. Some say she remains moored somewhere in thick fog, unable to move, still listening for his voice, long lost in the wind. Whatever Blackbeard became, he was not reborn. No bartered return from the grave came for him. His soul, if it lingered, was carried in silence, perhaps by those he fed to the fire, or by the sea herself, into depths unmapped, unguessed, and unvisited. He feared death, and in the end, died entirely. No haunt. No myth. Only example. That command drawn from fear will always feed on itself. The ritual was never just about water. Or if it had been, in the first reckoning, it ceased to be so long before any sailor written of here took their first oath aboard ship or shore. The fountain of youth could stretch time, yes, but only in shaping it, never destroying its record. And like everything the sea hides long enough, the path to youth was made more complicated by the beliefs men grafted onto it. By the time Jack Sparrow crossed the jungle path, ducking beneath vines that pulled instead of parted, stepping where no keel had ever cut, the sacred pool had become a place of converging lies. No one could seem to say what it gave exactly. A decade? A century? Youth in body only? Or in some cruel half-life, never changing, yet never escaping the weight of decisions already made? The priests said one thing, monarchs another. The conquistadors, with their bones still bleaching beneath the stone canopy, had perhaps known the truth, though whether they achieved it or died trying is blurred now in moss and tooth and silence. But hidden deeper within the rite was context, the key no blade could unlock. Two must drink. The water alone did not grant life. It simply chose a vessel. The tear of a mermaid served as a conductor, not of magic, but of will, spilled from a creature who could not be deceived. All required elements had to come together with purpose, not by theft alone, but by scenario of intention. The act was choice, not chemical. One drank to give. One drank to gain. Jack had known this. Or at least, known enough of it to place himself between those who would wield protocol like a torch and those unaware of the cost tied to every drop. Angelica held faith in her father. Blackbeard's belief in power was louder than his knowledge of consequence. Both hoped to walk away from the fountain untouched by its logic. But there is no ancient power that does not defend itself with unwritten law. Faith had never protected anyone from price. It surely did not protect Edward Teach. Jack's hand moved fast, faster even than Angelica's betrayal or Blackbeard's ambition. As the chalices were dipped into the ivory bowl fed by waters too clear to be rain, the tear dissolved impossibly slow. It clung to the inside seam, hesitant perhaps. A final drop of soul unwilling to part from the cup, now bearing a fate beyond its understanding. Jack had switched them. There was no performance to it. No leaping change of hand nor sleight meant to awe. Only that quiet precision with which he always acted when the stakes surpassed coin or compass. One chalice held the tear. One didn't. The ritual required both, but purpose determined placement. Angelica drank from the fuller cup, believing she sacrificed herself in an attempt to stalemate death. Believing Jack had, for once, played fair. Blackbeard drank from the second, convinced he drank salvation. What came was not noise, but stillness. Blackbeard's expression faltered first. His hands began to tremble, not with fear, but with awareness. Age returned to him in measureless tide, first in the wrinkle of flesh, then in the grey overtaking beard, then in the failing grip that loosed the infamous blade from calloused palm. What time had been deferred now returned with fervor, every withheld hour stacked into the seconds of his slide downward. He looked not at Jack, not at the water, but at Angelica. There was something like understanding in his eyes then. Perhaps regret, or disappointment, or simply recognition that no matter how men dressed their rule in brimstone and myth, all fathers eventually face their children without shield. Angelica gasped, though not in pain, not in horror. The burden landed silently in her bloodstream. The years from Blackbeard, even if unwanted, were transferred in full. Her breathing slowed, evened. She would live. But it meant she carried what had once been his. That was Jack's choice. He had watched them circle each other since the start of the voyage, father and daughter, predator and partner, neither certain of the equality in their bond. Angelica had every right to curse him for his decision. Yet when she staggered back from the water's edge, her look did not sear. It broke. Jack left without ceremony. He even offered her a weapon to kill him, reminding her, in that careless tone only Jack used when speaking matter-of-factly about his own potential murder, that she had many debts left to settle and likely would not want to spend one on him. She took the blade, but not the revenge. Not that day. The chalices remained. Whether buried or discarded, none can say with certainty. The jungle does not yield such artifacts easily, especially those tainted by the spill of life's trade. Jack took no trophies. He never did. He had stolen many years from the men who crossed him, but never kept them. The chalices were never truly his. Barbossa returned to his maps. He now bore the king's commission, though he answered to no crown truly. He left behind the ghost of the fountain's promise and retraced old roots drawn in old blood. Angelica disappeared. Into ocean. Into rumor. Some say she returned to the island where her father once made sacrifice beneath black stars. Some say she found vengeance elsewhere while her years kept her skin smooth and her memory jagged. Others claim she still sails, changing her name with every landfall, never dying, never still, always wondering whether the gift Jack gave her was mercy or something colder. And Jack? He never sought the chalices again. Some believe he feared them. Some say he felt he had already used them. Others say he understood what the fountain offered, escape, at cost, and for all his sins and flights, Jack Sparrow was not interested in escape. Not really. Only delay. One day he tossed a silver cup into the sea, though whether it was one of those, no record remains. The sea accepted it in silence, as it accepts everything. And beneath that still water, where spring-born currents never alter and jungle roots feed forgotten basins, two chalices lie somewhere distant from each other, forever part of one ritual completed, never to be repeated exactly again. The fountain, if it still flows, has since narrowed to a trickle. Unmarked. Undrunk. What remains is not power. Not magic. Only choice. Crystallized. Between the one who gives and the one who gains. Stories are not inherited whole. They're taken in parts, passed between oil-slick ledgers, carved into beams when the wood grows soft, whispered from hammocks in the quiet rocking after battle, or found in places where no ship ought to be. The sea, never generous with her gifts, gives back memory only when no one is looking. And what returns often arrives wrong-shaped, water-buckled, incomplete. So it is with the years after the fountain. Quiet years in memory alone, because what followed did not lack violence or movement, only cohesion. The great conflicts had dimmed. Empires still fought, pirates still robbed, ships still burned. But these events blurred into one another, blending into tides pulled more by personal pursuits than great curses or forgotten gods. Perhaps it began with the bottle. Jack Sparrow, still walking, still talking, still dragging sins as though they could be bartered like rum, acquired an object even he may not have fully understood. A globe of blown glass, coarse at the lip, corked tight with wax and sealed with scratchings that no one had translated aloud. Inside it, the black pearl. Miniaturized. Pressed. Trapped not just in size, but in purpose. Her mast barely taller than Sparrow's palm, her sails curled mid-billow as though the wind that once drove them had frozen still. How this happened is uncertain. Some speak of Blackbeard, before the fountain, before his unwinding death, having mastered a trick through the sword of Trident, to bind a ship to a bottle, preserve it for eternity without tide or time. Some say the Queen Anne's Revenge carried over a dozen such flasks, each housing vessels taken in silent conquest, each bottle charged with invisible crews banging unseen against the curvature of cursed glass. The pearl, if the tale was true, had been bottled as punishment. Either by Blackbeard, for rebellion not remembered, or by the sea itself, to remind even Jack that no ship sails forever. Especially not one that's already been to the underworld and back. Jack carried it like a relic. Not reverently. He tossed it in pouches, rolled it across tables, clutched it like coin when sleeping in places with no doors. Gibbs asked him more than once when they would free the pearl. Jack always gave the same answer, soonish. But time held no meaning for Jack anymore. His compass, often silent, now spun slower. Not aimless, but tired. It no longer pointed simply to what he wanted. It spun as though what he wanted had scattered itself, made up of fragments, burned pages, broken maps left by broken men. The only clue to restore the pearl came from books. Not the books sold at harbors or kept clean behind naval desks, but from journals. Pages left by those whose ships went too far beyond the wind. Bound in sea lion skin. Filled with scratchings decipherable only when dipped in salt water or held over burning oil. Journals of a man named Henry Turner. The son of Will and Elizabeth began his voyage not by rebellion, but by blood. The stories that built themselves around his father were carved into the very wood he was raised beside. No bedtime lullaby soothed him. Only tales of the Dutchman. He grew, quietly first, between land and longing. A boy whose father stepped ashore but once every decade. A boy who looked up and saw constellations not as stars, but as destinations. He believed Will Turner was shackled not by duty but by injustice. That the Dutchman's curse was loophole, not fate. And that somewhere on a map not yet drawn was the answer. To free him. To break the bond that chained a good man to a ghost's yoke. So Henry vanished to sea. Not for treasure. For truth. He joined the Navy young. Hid his intentions behind duty. Read every scuttled fact about sea curses through the insulation of official record. Spoke with drunks who remembered mutinies no longer recorded. Found the name Sparrow scrawled in logs as warning, sometimes lament. And then he found Corinna Smith. A woman raised too sharp for comfort, too brilliant for safety. Her father, unknown. Her mind, something of a compass itself. She deciphered stars backward. Read maps that had no ink. Corinna did not believe in Jack's tales. But she believed in patterns. And Henry had gathered enough of those. She carried a diary she claimed was her birthright. More than a relic, it was a navigator's keystone. Its pages whispered of a cosmic event that, once aligned, could rewrite the rules between sea and soul. For Henry, its title meant salvation. For Corinna, it meant proof that her future was not imagined. It was called the Map to the Stars. Verbal, not visible. Unreadable by eye. Only through the path of a hidden object known as the Trident of Poseidon. Mythic. Said to control the very seas that forgot the names of men. Jack had not sought it. But when the words reached him, break all curses, his eyelids twitched the way they always did before involvement. Gibbs did not stop him. No one ever did for long. There were others pulling strings. Salazar. A name once written in red ink on old Spanish scrolls, now etched in terror onto every naval memory that had survived open sea south of Martinique. Captain Armando Salazar did not simply chase pirates. He desecrated them. He had warred against sails black and red alike, believing himself a holy blade upon damned throats. Until Sparrow outwitted him. Younger, thinner, mouthed Jack had, by impossible luck, or divinely irregular instinct, trapped the silent Mary within the maw of the Devil's Triangle. And there she stayed, twisted in hate and hull, stuck neither in life nor death, a ghost ship drowned in rage. Henry's search resurrected a lineage of vengeance. The bottle with the pearl. The diary with the stars. Salazar's hate shaking its iron chains loose after decades locked beneath something saltier than murder, these converged. Jack found allies not through loyalty, but proximity. Corinna, who wanted truth more than comfort. Henry, who wanted blood freed more than accepted. Together, they turned from chase to pilgrimage. To recover the Trident. The journey was not one of open sails, but riddled coastlines. Opened only through events, celestial and timing alike. Every chart wrong but deeper for being so. They followed comets. Calculated tide by erosion of name. Past islands marked only when moon eclipsed sun. And when the sea finally gave way, and the Trident's point emerged, not gilded nor ominous, simply there, resting in a hull of stone teeth and sighing tide, it waited for decision. Not to be taken, but to be chosen. Henry broke it, not to hold dominion, but to ward off burden. The Trident split as though always meant to. And the curse is unraveled. Will Turner, aboard the Dutchman, staggered. The weight on his chest evaporated. His soul, no longer conscripted to ancient pacts, climbed, winded, back into breath. The pearl, long sought, re-emerged not from the bottle, but from sea foam. One moment still trapped in glass. The next, full-sailed and shimmering with age. How it escaped is not known. Perhaps the bottle was broken. Perhaps the trident's unbinding echoed into every artifact left curled in unnatural shape. Jack never spoke of it. He climbed aboard as though it had never left. Touched the wheel like a man remembering a familiar wound. Gibbs exhaled in relief. Henry embraced his father. Carina stood beside the railing, whispering fragments of constellations beneath her breath. Not spells. Memories. Her charts, now written by sky instead of ink. No log recorded the return. But bottles remain. At auction. At the bottom of sailors' kits. In private lockers taken from dead men's trunks. Each one empty. But each capable. Some whisper they still contain ships. The pearl was not the only one Teach preserved. Only the one with story loud enough to recall itself. Nothing that's ever been bottled truly forgets the shape of the sea. And nothing inked in a sailor's journal is ever truly unread. The Devil's Triangle was never drawn precisely. Maps refused it, perhaps out of fear, or out of superstition, or because no cartographer who dared to cross its shivering boundary remained sane enough to finish etching their lines. But every sailor had heard of it. Some called it the Broken Galleon. Others, the Scar. Some charts simply noted it with a ripple too perfect to be natural, water that never behaved the same twice. What all agreed upon was this: when a ship entered, it did not return. But ships did not need to return to make noise. The Silent Mary, under Captain Armando Salazar, disappeared there, the way all great and terrible ships do, at the height of a war that never found a proper end. Salazar had sailed with the fury of a blade held aloft too long. He did not chase pirates for gain, nor for title. He hunted them as a matter of principle, burned it into his crew like salt crusting on flesh, a creed rather than a conviction. The Spanish Empire had granted him license. But by the time the last daylight struck his sails, Salazar wielded vengeance, not flag. And Jack Sparrow, young, nameless but for the luck that wove around him like smoke, happened upon him. Lines differ on what precisely Jack did. But this much is remembered. He tricked Salazar into the triangle. He led the Silent Mary into the heart of that unnatural quiet. And when the black stone spires rose from the sea like teeth, the Mary's hull split, not by cannon or keel, but by curse. Salazar's ship died. But Salazar did not. The triangle kept its contents like a wound refusing to close, preserved in unnatural hours. Sailors became shades. Water no longer wet. Time moved, but sideways. 100 years passed outside. Inside, to the cursed crew, only a moment. It was the compass that broke it. Jack, midway through another bargain with someone he owed one thing too many, had let go of the compass. Whether he gave it away through sale, theft, or trick, the result was the same, not just loss, but betrayal. For the compass did not point north. It pointed toward desire. And to give it up was to relinquish part of the soul that braced against the deepest kind of fear. In return, the triangle opened. Salazar's crew poured from it, not as sailors, not even as ghosts, but as consequences. The sea did not take them back. It recoiled. Where they walked, barnacles bloomed. Where they breathed, sails wept mold. Their flesh had detached from life, but not from form. Hollowed. Part mummified. Constantly dripping, as if the triangle had preserved their death mid-process. The Silent Mary, no longer a galleon but a scarred jaw of itself, opened like a hunger where her bow should have been. Cannons bent upward, framing her front like the ribs of something never meant to touch air again. Sails tore not from wind, but from memory. Her keel floated not on water, but on forgotten wrath. And Salazar only spoke one name. Jack Sparrow. No other target mattered. The decades held no weight. No world-loosed calendar softened his edge. Jack had trapped him. Had outmaneuvered him. Had mocked him. And Salazar would not rest until both he and Jack were adrift no longer. He needed the Trident. The sea's ultimate key. Not to rule it. Only to end its rules. For it was said by those who remembered older tides that the Trident of Poseidon held dominion not merely over tide, but over the very forces that bound ship and soul together. All curses, it was whispered, even those etched in triangle dark limbo, would break beneath its shatter. Salazar, unlike those before him, didn't seek eternity. He wanted to die. But only after watching Jack fade first. Meanwhile, Henry Turner raced against him. The tides had aligned, stars and coordinates converging for the first time in a generation. Carina Smith read her father's journal with trembling certainty, guiding the course with something unfamiliar to most pirates, purpose rooted not in conquest, but in the wish to unmake permanence. She never believed in curses before she saw the Silent Mary breach open water like it had burst through a waking nightmare. The chase bent seaward, overlapping routes Jack had once sketched badly in wine across tavern walls. The Pearl, back beneath his boots but never far from leaving them, carried him not for peace but for answer. The Trident was no longer a story. It lay ahead, waiting in depths marked only during rare equinox. Salazar followed. Not with strategy. With inevitability. Ships fell, one by one. Manned and empty alike. Salazar's approach did not trigger thunder, nor lanterns blinking out. It created silence. The kind that froze oars mid-stroke. That shrunk torches by proximity. Some sailors leapt ship without being attacked, sensing in gut or marrow that this was not a ship built of war, it was made of fate. Side by side, Pearl and Mary turned toward the same end. The final point, the silent sea, still as a mirror, protected only by riddles spoken by Carina and translated through scars left on old journal pages. They reached the point together, not in truce, but in necessity. Trident asleep in coral-jawed basin. Sun above, hung like breath. The sea quieted. Henry broke it. Not with ceremony. With purpose. The Trident cracked, not in lightning, but like old wood splitting down the grain. No sound. Only change. It sundered with a pulse, felt in the bowels of all ships afloat, in the lungs of mariners who didn't know why they gasped. And with it, the curses bled into water. Henry's father, Will Turner, no longer breathed brine. His heart returned, not freshly, but with quiet reentry. The Dutchman spun rudderless for a moment before reorienting. Her crew stirred, not as barnacled servants, but as men again remembering weight. The Silent Mary began to disintegrate. Salazar stumbled onto stone. No longer cursed. Flesh not regained, but crumbling now naturally under the sun he had long sought to remember. He lunged, not for the Trident, now gone, but for Jack. But the sea moved in. It took the shattered wrecks, the cursed timbers, even the sound. Salazar fell before he could say Jack's name one more time. Only spray remained behind. Carina, blooded but breathing, learned her name that day, the truth buried in journal folds. A smith only by fostering, a Barbossa by legacy. Her father had watched from afar, always with caution. Never ready. Now, too late. He died for her. Unplanned. Belated. But real. As most parents do. Jack watched all of it. Said little. Revenge, after all, needs no speech once it's concluded. With the trident gone, no more curses formed. But old ones didn't vanish. They simply became memories. And memories cannot be broken. Only retold. Sparrow took the wheel again. Henry, reunited with the father he'd freed, stepped back from the sea, not with regret. With fullness. Carina held no ship, yet held dozens of charts. A new kind of captain, perhaps. One who saw journeys in stars first, not sails. The pearl turned, not homeward. There was none. She spun into fresh blue. Her mast full. Her captain musing, quietly. The compass spun once. Then, for the first time in weeks, stilled. Salazar would drift no more. But the triangle, they say, still waits. Unmarked. Unclosed. Where all debts circle, just one storm from waking. It did not shine, the trident, at least not in the way one expects from legends born in temples and etched into weathered stone. It was not adorned in gold nor surrounded by glow. It stood silent beneath the sea, tangled in coral like the last rib of a drowned god, waiting, not to be wielded, but to be understood. Those who came seeking it for conquest found only confusion. Those who came asking it for permission did not return. It was not forged by man. That much was certain. No forge on earth could temper its shape, nor any smith bend its line. If stories tell true, it emerged with the first tide, all salt and will, driven deep into ocean floor where no current moved freely and where time, once turned in cycles above, pooled into stillness below. When Henry Turner broke it, he did not know exactly what he was doing. Only what he believed it would undo. His hands, weathered though still young, found purchase at its midpoint. Carina stood beside him, whispering half-memories from pages read too many times by half-light. Jack watched from a distance, unspeaking, like a man watching a flame ignite a room he's already chosen to leave. The trident's shaft gave way soundlessly, split not by strength but by intent. A single fracture down its center, hairline at first, then widening like surf pulling back before storm surge. The ocean answered at once. Not with wave, but with inversion. For the trident did not break wind or tide. It broke structure. It dissolved the rules silently agreed upon by centuries of old bargains, bargains made in grief and anger, in shipwreck and in fear. Every pact carved into bone or sealed with blood beneath decks that never dry began to unravel. Not torn apart. Not purged. Just undone. Curses lifted. Slowly. Not all at once. All who had sailed under shadow felt the shift. Davy Jones's locker, once a stillness choked with stranded minds and half-truths, breathed out. Captains lost in reef and madness looked skyward again. Will Turner, former iron-souled master of the Flying Dutchman, found his pulse again in the quiet behind his ribs. The green gleam faded from his eyes. His boots felt the deck not as keeper, but as guest. Where his heart had been taken, it beat again. The Dutchman, no longer a ferryman's cage, fell quiet beneath the stars. She still floated, but in stillness, not in summoning. The souls aboard were his no longer. They moved on, or they stayed, but none were bound. The ship sighed in freedom, an old wood soul unburdened. Salazar, what remained of him, dissolved into sea, not by blade, nor by vengeance, but by release. The violence that had preserved his agony finally lost its footing. When the Trident broke, the hate had no mast to cling to. He faded before his fury did. Those tied to waterborne fate felt the corners of their history soften. Shackles long since rusted fell apart completely. The ghosts that haunted ships like barnacles detached. Not all passed into peace, some clung to the living just out of habit, but the bindings were snapped. The old ways were gone. But the sea does not give up power as easily as men. The Trident had ruled language, not just arcane rituals or sailors' prayers, but the secret grammar between storm and current. Without it, the ocean did not become quiet. It became unpredictable, freed of structure, no longer governed by pact or glyph. Suddenly, compasses spun wilder. Tides changed without lunar pull. Certain harbors flooded under full sun. In some quarters, ships vanished beneath calm water with no warning, as if stolen by silence. The world had imagined breaking the Trident would free lives, but no one realized it also unmoored the laws that held the deep in place. Balance had always been treacherous, and now it was unkeeled. Jack Sparrow, hands always ready to twitch into action, now kept his grip looser on the Pearl's wheel. His compass, long the strange tether to his desire, stilled for a time, but not from contentment. From confusion. It no longer knew what to point to. Not when the old rules were crumbling beneath cloudless skies. Even Jack seemed uncertain whether to be pleased. He wasn't bound anymore. But neither was anything else. Carina Smith returned to her studies, carrying with her wounds and reckonings. She had once believed in math alone, in stars and measurable proof, but after watching a myth unfold beneath her feet, she redrew her charts not in ink, but in layers. Each sky now yielded deeper textures. Not myths debunked, but absorbed. She lived with the knowledge that truth and legend merge when viewed at the right elevation. Henry Turner returned to land changed. Not in the ways he had expected. He had freed his father, yes, but in the process understood how little freedom meant if it could not be shared. He chose no commission. No piracy either. His ship was home, or for now. A quiet place to speak to a father thought lost for far too long. Will and Elizabeth were whole again. Yet every 10 years was now replaced by every day. And even that proved stranger than they anticipated. Will, who had lived inside the tide, moved like someone hovering just above dirt. He remembered breath differently. Elizabeth tried not to ask too many questions. The curse was gone, but the time wasn't. They had lost years they would never reclaim. And every time Will kissed her temple, she felt just a little bit of salt that hadn't washed away. Legends rewrote themselves. The Dutchman was now a ship of peace, but legends seldom advertise retirement. Some still whispered of her rising again, should a soul go uncollected long enough. Others claimed she drifted the Mariana, manned only by seagrass and windless cloth, waiting for a new captain, not foolish, but willing. As for the Trident's pieces, no one knows. Some say they dissolved into the sea's floor. Others believe they reformed into 3 lesser objects placed in 3 corners of the deepest trench, and that anyone foolish enough to touch even one would wake every old thing once banished. Jack joked once that he saw a shard wash up on Tortuga, being used to prop open a chicken coop. He laughed. Gibbs didn't. But there was something else. A quiet, subtle swell that began weeks after the Trident cracked that day. Around the coast of Madagascar, whales began to surface in formations unfamiliar to both chart and ritual. Beneath the ice near Greenland, sounds emerged, vibrations too harmonic to belong to tectonics, too erratic for machinery. Around the Horn of Africa, an abandoned lighthouse lit itself again, nights no quarter could map. Something moved. Not with purpose. With space. The vacuum left by the world's undoing of the sea's arbiter did not remain empty. The sea, left to manage its own devices, began remembering older rhythms. Not crueler. Just older. Jack, now once again master of the Pearl, not by battle or by betrayal, but simply because she came to rest beneath his boots, noticed every swell. He said little. But each night he checked the compass. And each night it wobbled before settling vaguely west. No one asked what lay west anymore. Too many answers had come in bottles. Too many kings had fallen for crowns not made of metal. The era of rules was over. So was the era of curses. But the myths? Those stayed. They changed shape. Moved in new fogs. Spoke in different tongues. But they breathed. So Jack, as always, raised anchor against winds no one else could feel. And the sea welcomed him. Not kindly, but knowingly. The sea quiets only in the ways men forget to listen. Beneath the rolling chant of waves and the cry of sails pulled tight with hunger, there are sounds too old to name. A sigh just under the wind's edge. A groan in the hull that was not caused by stress nor weather. Murmurs in ropes flung slack against damp barrels during night watch. These are not figments. They are not madness. They are memory. The curses were broken. That much sailors spoke aloud, though never too loud, for fear of being corrected. The Dutchman no longer stole men from waters too deep for ropes to recover them. The Trident, once ruler of squall and agreement, was split, hushed into sediment. Jones was gone. Salazar, dissolved. Blackbeard, a story again after years of nightmare. Yet in the silence that followed, a new stillness took hold. Because stories do not end with silence. They wait in it. Like anchors buried too deep to pull. Jack Sparrow sailed still. Not famously. Not secretly either. He was simply there, a fixed motion upon an unfixed sea. The Black Pearl, restored after imprisonment, sped beneath him not like glory pursuing legacy, but like breath seeking its own shape. Her wood was the same, her sails unpatched. But something in her rhythm sounded less like cannon and more like caution, like the ship was remembering storms long past. There were murmurs again. Of new edges forming at the horizon. Places where stars did not align as before. Some claimed small isles had emerged where none had been known prior to the Trident's shattering. Others reported fog banks that moved like lines, straight and turning at corners that followed no wind. And in the harbors, old men, those too crippled to crew and too proud to beg, spoke of dreams. Not their own. Shared ones. The same dream, told from Jamaica to Singapore. Of a ship they could not name. of a whisper not made by voice nor wind, saying only, "Return." No one said what it meant. But eyes turned to the water again as they had in the days when sails were feared more than storms. In Port Royal, Elizabeth awoke from sleep with salt on her tongue. The room closed around her in that breathless way spaces do when something watches without form. She did not speak to others of it. Her son now grown, she had learned to keep certain feelings sealed behind the smile of motherhood too long sustained. Yet every now and then she paced the cliff's edge, watching the tide with the look of someone measuring time, not by hours, but by weight. Will walk the shore. Fully human now, heart in chest where chests belong, yet still unaccustomed to gravity, to time ordered by bells and work and meals. He moved like a man who had carried eternity and now could not fill the hours. His dream smelled of brine and showed him faces half-rotted and grateful, faces of those he ferried and of those he never reached. He did not speak of them. Neither did Elizabeth. But they listened, in their own way, to what the sea whispered. Carina Smith recharted her father's journal. She corrected the errors, marked the lies, translated metaphors that had once been mistaken for fact and left room for the ones that refused to settle into anything but mystery. Somewhere amid those constellations-turned equation, she began to wonder if the things science once banished would ever truly stay gone. Henry kept the Dutchman in his thoughts, though he knew he might never see her sail again. The freedom he had earned came with its own drift. There was no bar to return to, no home but the idea of it. He found work on merchant ships, declined offers for command. And sometimes, when he heard the groan of hull against high-tide dock, he imagined, only imagined, a green light flickering beneath the waterline. Barbossa was gone. Not by curse. Not by claw. But by choice. A death sealed in meaning, passed from man to daughter without need for legend. No grand return. No final wink. He had given his life the way captains once did before magic made survival a gamble. Still, some whispered his hat was seen, floating once off the coast of Eleuthera, stuck to the mast of a wreck no one remembered sailing. And Jack? Jack remembered everything. But as with all things he remembered too well, he moved past them with shrug and smile. He spoke to the Pearl at night, more than he did to passing crews or distressed souls lingering on salt-wet docks. There was talk, once again, of ships vanishing near the Triangle. But Jack did not go back there. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. Once, during a week where the winds went wrong in every direction, and every tide pulled too soon, a boy asked Jack where he was headed next. Jack looked into the wind, blinked once at the compass. It spun softly, then stopped. He didn't answer. But he didn't leave. Not that day. And somewhere far below the dark line of ocean skin, in a trench where sunlight dare not linger, a chest thumped quietly. No longer glowing. No longer cursed. Just breathing. Waiting, perhaps, for someone to remember it. And in the morning, as fog lifts from the dockside ropes and the seagulls scream at each other over the same fish bones, some who linger on the edge of waking swear they heard a voice. A voice that belongs to no one and to everyone who ever knew what it was to chase something they couldn't hold. A voice that says not beware. Not run. Just this. He's coming back. And the gulls keep screaming. And the sea keeps refusing to lie still. The tale concludes here, as all sea tales do, not in thunder, but in slow drift, with the taste of brine on the edge of the wind.